Hey, film fans! Welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps, from heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. Our movie starts where Lisa is walking down the street when a car stops in front of her, abducts her, and puts her inside the vehicle. She's given a sedative, and when she wakes up, she finds herself lying on a hospital-like bed in a place resembling a hospital. Two men drag her, and she keeps asking them, "What do you want from me?" She calls out to them, but they remove the mask covering her face and tie her up like a dog. Then, a man wearing a mask that conceals his identity enters and stares at her, terrifying her with what's happening. Another man comes in, bringing her food, and places it in front of her as if she's a dog, even giving her dog food. The next day, he returns with more food, but she hasn't touched the previous day's meal. Annoyed, he takes the food away. On the third day, he places the food farther away to make her suffer before she can reach it, but she manages to grab it and eats like a dog, having not eaten in 3 days. However, the food is drugged, and she passes out again. When she wakes up, one of her captors is in front of her, spraying her with water, saying, "Your smell is awkward." Afterward, she's returned to her place and fitted with a dog collar. She's taken to a large area where a voice on a microphone commands her to walk and not do anything else. Desperate to escape, she starts running, but the collar tightens around her neck, causing her to collapse and lose consciousness. When she regains consciousness, she finds herself back in her place and discovers a man named Adam nearby, also treated like a dog. Hearing his voice, she asks, "Who's here with me?" They start talking and getting to know each other. Adam tells her he was brought there before her and doesn't know why they're there or what their captors want. Lisa suspects she's hallucinating and doubts Adam's existence, thinking he might be part of the captors group. Adam reassures her, saying, "Look, I'm real," pointing to a spot at the end of her path. When she looks, she sees him there. The captors bring them food, treating them horribly, but Adam warns Lisa not to eat because the food contains hallucinogens. Overhearing this, the captors punish them with electric shocks, causing them to pass out. When they wake up, they eat ravenously and lose control. Lisa starts reminiscing about her lover. Later, they realize they're in adjacent cells separated by a single wall. Adam expresses relief at being close to her despite their captivity and vows to escape together. He asks her to promise to stay with him when they get out, and she agrees. Adam suggests they must kill their captor to escape. However, their captor catches them and forbids them from touching each other. Adam, frightened of being separated from Lisa again, reassures her of his loyalty. She insults the captor, who tightens her collar until she loses consciousness. When she wakes up, she finds Adam attacking the man who brings their food and stealing his keys. Adam frees Lisa, but something strange happens. Lisa grabs an object and hits Adam on the head, knocking him out. Lisa is then taken to a room with cameras where she confronts her captors, accusing them of breaking their agreement about the conditions of the experiment. It turns out the entire ordeal is a university project, and Lisa was part of it. George, one of the project leaders, reveals that the sedatives in the food were only strong painkillers, not hallucinogens. They bring Lisa clean food this time, but she insists on stopping the experiment. George, however, laughs maniacally and refuses, determined to complete the project. Lisa is returned to her place, where Adam is still unconscious. When he wakes up, he remembers hitting the food handler and taking the keys, but is told by Lisa that it was all a hallucination caused by the food. Adam believes her, and they are taken back to the open area. They try to escape by climbing over a fence, but their collars tighten, and they pass out. When Adam wakes up, he finds himself with George, who injects him with a substance that causes severe hallucinations and convulsions. Lisa undergoes the same treatment. Despite their earlier agreement to escape together, she imagines her lover again, as if they are together. Suddenly, she sees his face turn into a demon's face. However, Erica starts to suspect Georgie and opens the cameras to monitor him, only to find that he has turned off all the cameras. Georgie then comes into Erica's room and she confronts him, saying, "Where were you? I came to check on you, but I didn't see you on any of the cameras." He struggles to come up with an excuse until he says, "I'm going to get some food." She goes to their project colleagues and asks if anyone has noticed anything strange about Georgie, urging them to come with her. Her suspicions are confirmed when they find her taking an injection. As soon as they enter the room, she sees them as demons and screams. Erica is baffled by what's happening and begins to confirm that he's doing strange things behind their backs. She reinstalls the cameras and takes 2 of the workers before sending Adam and Lisa to the dog kennels. When Georgie returns, he notices them on the cameras and says, "What's this?" She replies, "I saw you were busy, so I brought them back." Then a surprise unfolds. Erica had called Fisher, their manager. Fisher calls Georgie, who is shocked, and asks Erica, "Did you contact her and tell her anything?" When he sees her on the cameras, he frightens. He tries to save himself but fails, finding her standing right in front of him. As soon as she enters, she says, "You should explain what you've done. If I'm not convinced, I'll cancel the entire project." He protests, saying, "You can't cancel the experiment. We're halfway through and almost done." She retorts, "What you've done is inhumane. Look at what you've turned them into. I saw their condition on the cameras." He insists, "It's just sedatives. I didn't do anything else." She orders him to release Lisa and tell her that everything they've been doing is over. Georgie hesitates, saying, "How can I end the experiment now?" She replies, "Forget about the experiment. You could go to jail for what you've done." She storms out, leaving him panicked, saying, "I don't want to go to jail." Erica brings Lisa to Fisher, who tells Erica to leave them alone. Fisher turns off the camera from her phone. When she enters Georgie's room, he pleads, "We can't go to jail." She smirks. "What are you afraid of? Didn't you just give them sedatives? You won't go to jail for that." Fisher gives Lisa an adrenaline injection to wake her up and scolds her, saying, "You had no right to conduct these experiments. Why did you involve Adam without authorization? Show me the paperwork proving Adam was supposed to be part of the experiment." Lisa admits that the paperwork was stolen from her. Fisher accuses her of bringing Adam without his parents' consent and declares that everything will stop and the experiments will end. However, Lisa suddenly loses her temper, attacks Fisher, and nearly kills her by strangling her. She drags Fisher into a room, locks her inside, and leaves her there. Fisher yells, "Help me, let me out, and I'll let you continue the experiment." Lisa mocks her and locks the room and leaves her trapped. Meanwhile, Georgie and Erica argue. He blames her, saying, "You're the reason for all of this. You told them that I sedated them for 3 weeks, as we agreed." She retorts, "You sedated them illegally." Lisa appears on the camera, addressing them. "We're ready. Let's start the experiment." Erica asks, "Where's Fisher?" Lisa lies, saying, "She left." Georgie is puzzled, asking, "She left without saying anything to you?" Lisa replies, "Not a word." She adds that Fisher told her they only have a few days left to finish everything. Georgie is surprised by all this. He goes to change into his clothes and prepare for the experiment. Erica tells him, "You're lucky this is over, and she only gave you a few days to finish." Lisa reassures Erica, "Don't worry about Fisher. I know how to handle her." She adds, "The important thing is that Adam came back for me. Let's get ready for the final stage of the experiment." Erica asks, "What's your plan?" "I need to know because I don't understand anything." Lisa responds, "I don't need anything from you except to put bags over our heads and take us halfway there. He doesn't know who you are, hasn't seen you, and doesn't know who we are." Lisa insists that everything will end today and that they need to disappear before Fisher finds out anything about them. She reassures Erica, saying, "You're my friend. I have no one else but you." Georgie puts on his suit and gets ready. He checks on Adam, who is still unconscious. He quickly brings Lisa to her place and ties her up. Erica disagrees with all of this but pretends to stay silent, though she's unhappy with the situation. When they enter the room, she says, "I'm not okay with what you're doing." She grabs her phone to call Fisher, but Georgie snatches it from her, saying, "If Fisher comes back, we'll all go to jail." He urges her to calm down and assures her that everything will be fine, pleading, "Please, no Fisher." He promises to start the experiment and tells her, "If we're late again, you can call Fisher, and I won't argue. It'll be your right." She agrees, and he takes her phone to keep it with him. Lisa and Adam are together, and when Adam wakes up, he says, "I'm not feeling well. I'm very weak." Lisa greets him, saying, "Forget everything and think of something good that happened to you in life." Adam responds, "I can't. I'm too tired to think of anything." Lisa holds his hand, and she tells him, "Surely something good must have happened in your life. Think about it and comfort yourself with it." Then Lisa goes to talk to Georgie through the camera and tells him that Fisher is over and that she took the experiment papers from her. Georgie goes to Fisher's room and Fisher tells him, "Save me," and that Lisa is dangerous. She says, "She will finish all of you." He tells her, "Stay out of it." He throws a piece of iron at Lisa, killing her and ending it. He then goes to the bathroom to wash Fisher's blood off his face, feeling scared of what he has done. Later, Adam and Lisa are seen talking. She asks him, "Have you ever loved anyone before?" He replies, "I loved my father and my dog." She says, "I mean romantic love." He tells her that he has been in relationships but has never truly loved anyone. He then asks her if she has ever loved someone. She replies, "Yes, I did, but the person I loved had no feelings. The first time I saw him was in the yard. Our eyes were blindfolded, but I imagined my life with him, our house, our children, even though I didn't know anything about him. She continues, "Everything I'm saying sounds silly, doesn't it?" He tells her, "It's not silly. I understand you." Meanwhile, Erica turns off all the lights in the yard. Adam notices and says, "Something strange is happening." It's the first time they've turned off the lights without ringing the bell first. They go to check on Fisher and find her dead. Suddenly, Georgie attacks them. Lisa manages to free herself and goes to Adam, telling him she stole the key while he was sleeping to free him without making any noise. She tells him, "Look around you, there's no electricity or light. This is our last chance to escape." Meanwhile, Georgie and Erica are talking. He tells her, "Did you see what Lisa did? She killed her, and I was about to tell you before the lights went out." Erica says she will call the police because the situation is dangerous. Georgie stops her, saying, "Wait, I'll come with you." But when they go, he injects her with a sedative in her neck and returns to the camera room. When he sees Lisa and Adam running, he uses his phone to activate their collars, choking them. Later, Adam and Erica are tied together. Erica tells Adam, "I know you don't know me, but you need to focus and listen." He asks her how she knows his name and accuses her of being one of them. She denies it, saying she used to be one of them but is now on his side and needs his help to escape. She reveals that she is Lisa's friend. Adam angrily asks her where Lisa is and what she did to her. Erica insists she doesn't know and explains that the experiment has gone wrong and people are dying. Adam demands an explanation about the experiment. Erica reveals that it is a behavioral and racist experiment where humans are treated like animals. She tells him that Lisa brought him here because she loves him obsessively, ever since she first saw him. Adam realizes that the story Lisa told him was about him. He accuses Erica of trying to manipulate him and insults her. She pleads with him to trust her, saying she knows a way out and needs his help to escape. Adam refuses, saying he can't trust her. Erica reminds him of an incident where he hit her on the head and took the key while she was bringing him food, even though Lisa later convinced him it didn't happen and that he was hallucinating. Adam begins to believe her and curses Lisa. Lisa overhears their conversation and becomes upset. She tells Georgie she needs to fix everything. Georgie agrees, but says he wants to show her something important first. He takes her to a room filled with young men, telling her that each of them knows her by a different name and has harmed her in some way. He says he decided to punish them all. He also reveals that he knows her true identity, unlike the others, and confesses his love for her. He says he couldn't bear the thought of her only seeing Adam and not him. Lisa is shocked by his words. Georgie takes her to see what he did to Fisher for her sake. He tells her that anyone who harms her will be killed because he truly loves her. He then takes her to Adam and Erica. He gives Lisa a phone and tells her to choose one of them to die. Erica pleads with Lisa, reminding her that they are best friends and only have each other. Adam accuses Lisa of playing with him and calls them all crazy. Georgie insists Lisa choose, saying he doesn't want to hear any more talking. Lisa chooses Erica, but Georgie, being cunning and in love with Lisa, does the opposite, choking Adam instead. Lisa screams, telling him to stop and insisting she didn't mean it. Georgie tells her it's too late. She made her choice. Lisa begs him to spare Adam, offering to do whatever Georgie wants and even marry him. Georgie accuses her of lying and says he doesn't believe her. He leaves and kills Adam. After Georgie leaves, Erica berates Lisa, calling her the worst person she has ever known. She says she treated Lisa like family, but Lisa betrayed her. Lisa admits she knows she looks bad in everyone's eyes, but insists they need to work together to escape. When Georgie returns, he gives Lisa a tablet, and he tells her to press this button, and when she presses it, all the men who hurt her die. They bring her button, and she strangles herself, but because Georgie loves her and is crazy about her, he manages to save her. After he saves her, she hits him, frees herself, and releases Erica. They run away, and as they run, every place they enter is full of dead people, until Georgie catches her and says, "Listen to me." She hits him again and runs away. She goes to hide from him, and when he finds her again, he tells her, "I love you, stay with me." He starts to strangle her, but Erica, who was hiding behind him, hits him. He falls unconscious, and when he wakes up, they've tied him up and put the collar on him. He dies the same death. Then she betrays Erica and kills her. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell so you can get our videos as soon as they're uploaded. See you next time. Welcome to Cine Pro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. Our movie begins with Pauline. We usually see her in a place resembling an operating room. There was another version of her sitting in front of her, bleeding from her mouth. Quickly, we learn that this is a dream as soon as Pauline wakes up, seemingly unbothered. By the way, Pauline suffers from a psychological disorder called borderline personality disorder, which is also referred to as emotionally unstable personality disorder. We will learn more about this condition as the movie progresses. On the side, Pauline tells herself she wants to become a surgeon because her sister Grace suffers from pulmonary fibrosis. So she wants to become a doctor to treat her sister and alleviate her pain. Her parents, Bob and Taylor. You'll notice that Taylor is a bit domineering and treats Pauline rather harshly, which is a reaction to Pauline's overall behavior. Meanwhile, Bob is very peaceful and always defends Pauline, trying to ensure she doesn't feel like a burden. He tries to fix what Taylor messes up. At school, we see Pauline very focused on her studies because she wants to become a surgeon. During a break, Pauline sits with two of her classmates, Natalie and Abigail. She overhears Natalie talking about their classmate Adam and how they are dating. Abigail mocks Adam, and just then, Adam arrives and greets his girlfriend. Pauline tells him, "By the way, your girlfriend's friend was mocking you just now." This puts Abigail in an awkward position, but she acts this way because she is mentally unwell. After school, Taylor picks Pauline up. On the way, Taylor tells Pauline to fasten her seatbelt. Pauline refuses, so Taylor stops the car and gets very angry, saying, "If you don't fasten your seatbelt, I won't move the car and you'll miss your therapy session." Under pressure, Pauline complies. Taylor tells her, "You think the pastor you take me to is a psychiatrist?" But her mother told her it's better than nothing. Where would we get the money for real psychiatrists? Their fees are very expensive. Indeed, Pauline arrives at the church and sits with the pastor, who asks her some questions. But Pauline mocks him and responds sarcastically, saying, "What does religion have to do with psychiatry? I don't understand." She doesn't believe he is a doctor, so she refuses to engage with him. The next day, Pauline is surprised to see Taylor at school in the principal's office. Pauline asks her, "What are you doing here?" Taylor replies, "I'm signing you up for the school's group dance party." Pauline gets very angry, tears up the paper, and storms out of the office. At dinner that night, Pauline brings up the topic with her mother, saying, "Don't make decisions about my life without consulting me. I'm not attending the party." As usual, Taylor disagrees, saying, "You have to attend because there will be a cultural seminar, and you need to be cultured before entering college." Later, we see Pauline in a dream where she interacts with a decapitated body and starts licking its blood. It's a dream, but it's evident she enjoys the gore in her dreams. At school, Pauline approaches Adam in front of his classmates and boldly asks him to become friends, leaving her phone number for him to respond. Naturally, this behavior leads Adam's friends to laugh at her and mock her. We then return to Pauline's dreams, where she walks over a pile of bodies scattered on the ground until she reaches a blood-filled bathtub. She gets in, enjoying herself as her entire body is submerged in blood. When she woke up, she went down to have breakfast with her. At that moment, she saw Pauline has piercing. She got very angry and told her to remove it immediately. This is not our morals. Paul removed it against her will. After that, Tyler sat with Bob alone and told him, "Am I harsh on Pauline? I do not want to be a copy of my mother and be harsh on her as she was harsh on me." Bob told her, "If you were harsh, I would have divorced you a long time ago. You do all this out of fear for her." Later, we see Pauline and Grace playing in the garden. Across the street, they notice their neighbor Jennifer jumping rope. Pauline says, "I love jumping rope. Can we play together sometime?" Jennifer responds harshly, "I would never play with someone as crazy as you." Grace gets upset on behalf of her sister, yells at Jennifer, and takes Pauline inside the house. At the end of the day, Pauline receives a call from Adam, who says he agrees to her offer. She tells him, "Okay, come pick me up from my house on Monday." She informs Taylor that Adam will come to work on a school project with her. However, it's clear Taylor believes there's a romantic relationship between Pauline and Adam. Before Pauline leaves the house, Taylor applies makeup on her to make her look attractive to Adam. When Adam arrives, he greets Taylor, takes Pauline. Isrania Taylor seems very pleased, thinking her daughter is now in a relationship, which might boost her confidence or something. However, Adam returns Pauline home shortly after, visibly uncomfortable and unwilling to see her again. By the end of the day, Grace is crying because she received news that her friend from the hospital passed away due to pulmonary failure. Taylor tells Pauline to console Grace because her friend has died. Pauline responds, "So we're just going to leave Grace sick until she dies too?" Taylor replies, Grace's condition is stable, so stop thinking negatively, please. Back at school, Pauline is with Natalie, Abigail, and Adam. She slyly reveals to Natalie that Adam cheated on her with Pauline. Then she leaves. Later, Natalie and Abigail confront Pauline in the locker room, mocking her appearance and body, even calling her mentally unstable. This deeply affects Pauline's mental state. When she returns home, she stands in front of the mirror, examining her body and marking areas with lipstick where she thinks she needs cosmetic surgery. Grace walks in and asks, "What are you doing?" Pauline replies, "I'm marking the areas where I need cosmetic surgery, and I'll perform the surgery on myself." Grace tells her, "But you're beautiful and don't need any surgery." She tries to convince Pauline to love herself as she is, but Pauline remains unconvinced. The entire family gathers. At dinner, Tayor informed the girls that the headstone ceremony was approaching and they needed to prepare themselves. As usual, Pauline made it clear that she didn't want to attend the ceremony. However, Tayor insisted, saying, "Maybe you'll meet someone nice there." Later, Pauline went to sleep and dreamt that she was cutting out her own tongue, expressing how deeply Tayor's words had affected her, wishing she could silence herself. The next day at school, Pauline went to the bathroom and drank some medication. When she returned to class, she showed signs of illness. When she got home, Tayor checked her temperature and took care of her, but then said, "I saw the bottle of medicine in your bag. You took it to make yourself dizzy and nauseous so you wouldn't attend the ceremony, right? You're going to attend it whether you like it or not." And indeed, the ceremony took place, and Pauline attended. However, she caused significant problems with her classmates, leading to her mother, and her sister being thrown out of the event. The next day, a student took Pauline to school. After Tayor left, Pauline walked out of school and went to the public library, where she began reading books about medicine and lung surgery. After the school day ended, Pauline returned home, and Tayor confronted her, saying, "The school principal called and told me you didn't attend today. Where were you?" Pauline replied, "I was at the library." Tayor didn't let it go and slapped her. Later during dinner, Pauline appeared very upset. Out of nowhere, she threw the food at Tayor's face, left the dinner table, and went to her room. While there, she overheard Tayor yelling to Bob, "I can't stand this girl anymore. I don't want to see her in this house again. Get her out." Hearing this made Pauline extremely upset, and she cried deeply. The next day, when she was coming back from school, she found a dead pigeon thrown on the floor. She caught it with her in the bag, and when she got back home, she opened its chest as a kind of training. At that time, her hand was covered in blood, so she started licking the blood, and she was enjoying it very much. After that, Pauline and Tayor had another confrontation. Tayor expressed her frustration and told Pauline that her actions were out of anger and that she didn't want to treat her the way her own mother had treated her. After an emotional and heartfelt conversation, Tayor said, "Are you done? All right, goodbye," and walked away. One day, the family woke up to find disturbing messages written on the house walls. Pauline immediately suspected Natalie and Abigail. She rushed to the school in anger and first saw Adam, but then attacked Natalie, hitting her violently. The principal summoned Pauline to his office and told her he had no choice but to expel her due to her behavior. When Pauline returned home, Tayor was furious, saying, "You only had 1 month left to graduate. Why did you do this?" Pauline provoked her further with her attitude, showing no remorse. Days later, Tayor sat in the garden looking very sad. Bob approached her, asking what was wrong. She replied, "The doctor called about Grace's condition. It has worsened, and she needs a lung transplant." Pauline overheard this conversation from her room and became deeply affected. During dinner that night, Pauline apologized to her mother for her recent behavior. Bob was pleased with her apology, as was Tayor, and they thought things were improving. However, Grace suddenly experienced breathing difficulties, causing the family to panic. The next day, Tayor told Pauline she would be out until the evening and asked her to take care of Grace. After Tayor left, Pauline put sleeping pills in Bob's tea, causing him to fall unconscious. She then went outside and saw their neighbor Jennifer skipping rope. Pauline invited Jennifer over, saying, "I have plenty of ropes in the garden. Come take them. I don't use them." Despite not liking Pauline, Jennifer went along for her own benefit. However, Pauline drugged Jennifer with a cloth soaked in sedatives, causing her to lose consciousness. Pauline then went to Grace's room and drugged her as well, believing she was about to perform a heroic act. Pauline shaved her head completely, took both Jennifer and Grace to the garage, and attempted to perform a lung transplant on Jennifer to save Grace. When Tayor returned home, she found Bob unconscious and tied up with ropes. Shocked and panicked, she ran around the house searching for the girls. She eventually reached the garage and was horrified by the scene. Unfortunately, the operation had failed, and both girls had died. Pauline, however, was convinced the surgery was successful, saying, "I saved her, Grace." Look, Taylor couldn't move, overwhelmed by the tragedy. She hugged Pauline and screamed in despair. Pauline also let out a powerful scream as she realized her actions, understanding she had caused a catastrophe and taken 2 innocent lives because of her mental instability. And here the movie ends. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates. See you in the
Welcome to Recaply X, your movie recap in a flash. We bring the drama, the action, and the twists in minutes. The movie begins in a small town in France. Charles is heading to school with Remy, who, during the trip, mentions that he's saving a lot of money from his new job. But Charles was always a child without emotions, so he showed no reaction to the news. After school, the boy returned home. While doing his homework, he decided to prick his hand with a pin, to train himself to ignore pain. But Yvonne interrupted him and called him for dinner. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Mrs. Margaret welcomed her children, who brought her a special gift for her birthday. When she opened the box, she found Baxter, a white bull terrier dog who had been homeless and rescued from the local animal shelter. Once freed from his leash, the dog ran wildly around the house, knocking over many items, breaking vases and scattering clothes. At the beauty salon, Margaret told the hairdresser about Baxter's behavior, but the man said it was normal and that they would adapt to their new life together over time. On her way home, the woman was with her friend Andrea, who advised her to contact her daughter Florence if she didn't feel safe with the dog, and ask her to return it to the shelter. But Margaret didn't realize that this dog was actually very smart, capable of thinking more than any other animal, and had keen observations of human habits and behaviors. Baxter considers the only happy moment in his day to be when he's let out into the garden, where he experiences freedom and hunts small wild rats. But this joy doesn't last long, as Margaret always forces him to stay indoors. Over time, Margaret and Baxter became friends, and this friendship made the woman abandon the idea of returning the animal. A few days later, while playing cards in a restaurant, Andrea asked about Baxter and noticed that his friend was still hesitant about the dog. He suggested contacting Florence and asking her to take the dog back to the shelter. Margaret refused and told the old man to stop interfering in her life and to leave her dog alone, as he was now her new companion. To avoid upsetting his friend further, Andrea apologized, saying it was all a misunderstanding, but the woman ignored him, got up from the table, and left. Over time, Baxter grew confused about Margaret, as she never did anything fun or gave him any commands. This made him think she was waiting for the right moment to eat him or even get rid of him. While watching the neighborhood from the window, the dog noticed that the neighbors were moving out, and a new couple was moving into their house. Encouraged to get to know them, Baxter continued observing them closely. Meanwhile, Charles returned home one evening. When he noticed his mother hosting another party with her friends, he tried to sneak up to his room unnoticed, but Yvonne caught him and asked him to greet the guests. Afterward, the boy went to his room, where he enjoyed looking at many pictures of battles between soldiers from World War II. At Margaret's house, Baxter continued observing the daily lives of the new couple. When he noticed that his owner would prevent him from sitting by the window, he decided to attack her. The next day, after hearing that her mother had fallen and gotten hurt, Florence went to Margaret's house and applied some bandages to her legs. Afterward, Margaret got up, and during this time, the shelter owner helped her walk around the house. She asked him about Baxter's strange behavior, and he explained that the dog might feel abandoned by his previous owner. The man elaborated that since he was handed over to the elderly woman, Baxter might have interpreted it as betrayal, as if he were worthless to his former owner. At this point, Florence brought some sheets and suggested her mother sleep on the lower floor of the house for a while, as she wouldn't be able to climb the stairs with her injured leg. Thus, Margaret spent a few nights on the sofa bed, while Baxter continued spying on the neighbors. Charles, in his home, watched a documentary about World War II and amused himself by looking at Soviet constructions. He decided to replicate them and printed plans for one of the bunkers built by military leaders. In the morning, Andrea went to the beauty salon and asked about Margaret's whereabouts, but the hairdresser replied that he didn't know, as she had cancelled her appointment 3 weeks ago. Hearing this, the old man became worried and went to Margaret's house. When she sensed Andrea's presence, she decided to avoid him and closed all the windows so he wouldn't notice her. After a few days, Baxter noticed that Margaret was becoming increasingly affected by extreme loneliness. This changed her behavior and made the dog stay closer to his owner. Andrea, realizing that the woman wouldn't welcome him, decided to visit her house again. He broke down the door to enter, causing Baxter to flee the scene quickly. The dog ran toward the neighbor's house. When Amy noticed his presence, she warned her husband, who went to the window to figure out how Baxter had escaped the house. When he did, he was shocked to see Andrea screaming for help, saying that Margaret had fallen down the stairs and gotten hurt. Unfortunately, Margaret had died. At Margaret's funeral, Amy was approached by Florence, who asked her to take care of Baxter, as she didn't like pets at all. This made the dog feel a new sense of happiness, as he could now enjoy the sounds and smells in the garden with his new owners. They treated him like their child. A few days later, Amy threw a surprise birthday party for Jim and performed a crazy dance show with Baxter. After the impressive dance performance, the woman went to her husband and revealed that she was pregnant. This made the man very happy. Meanwhile, Charles continued developing his bunker plans. After gathering all the necessary materials for the structures, he went to the junkyard. The boy quickly began building, digging a large hole to expand his bunker. Over time, Baxter felt he was gradually being forgotten by his owners. The husband was very excited about the baby's arrival, so the dog decided to get closer to Jim and spend more time with him, as he enjoyed working with the soil in the garden. But after the baby was born, Baxter was locked in the garage. This made him very angry because he was abandoned a second time by his owners. One day, Jim freed the animal again and allowed him to meet their new baby. When Baxter saw the child, he was confused because he could never understand the love humans feel toward their children. He kept staring at the weak baby, who had no teeth or hair. Baxter acted with extreme gentleness, so his owner wouldn't keep locking him in the garage. Jim asked the dog to be very kind to his son, so they could all live happily together in their owner's garden. Baxter tried to think of a plan to get rid of the baby, but it was very difficult because Jim was always watching the baby. So Baxter decided to wait until the baby was left alone for a bit and push him into the pool to get rid of him, then pretend to help after it was too late. Meanwhile, Charles went to the old scrapyard and entered his hideout. He found his control panel with its electrical system and confirmed that everything was working well. He went to the observation openings to see everything around him without being noticed. Later, Andrea went to Margaret's grave and placed a bouquet of flowers on her tombstone. At that moment, Margaret's spirit appeared and began speaking to him. She told him that it was now his time to rest, and that they should let the young people lead the world as they wish, so they could handle the tragedies and disappointments to come. When Andrea heard the spirit's words, he accepted his end, rested his head on her shoulder, and passed away at that very moment. When Charles returned home, he met his father, who asked him to quickly choose a gift because his birthday was approaching. The boy, hesitant, went to his room, where he saw many pictures of famous people with their pets, which finally made him realize what he wanted for his birthday. The next day, Baxter's family gathered in the garden again. When Baxter noticed the couple moving away from the garden, the dog quickly went toward the baby to push him into the pool. However, the dog barked too early, warning the couple, which allowed Jim to save his son just in time. This completely ruined Baxter's plan, and of course, the couple became worried about their son. Jim and Amy decided to put out an ad for someone to adopt the dog, which caught Charles's attention. Later, the boy went to the couple's house with Michael. After gathering everything for the dog, they took him home. Within just a few days, Charles and Baxter became close friends. so Charles decided to train him to become stronger and more dangerous. He began training him with fabric dummies and running alongside his new friend in the streets. Baxter felt he had finally found the human he had always dreamed of and was happy with him. During this time, Charles enhanced his dog's skills, which made him confident that Baxter would follow any command he gave. On his school bus trip, Charles continued collecting war photos, but his classmate Eva interrupted him, asking to sit next to him because she liked him. The girl tried to get closer to him, but when she felt he wasn't reciprocating, she left her seat and walked away. When Charles returned to his secret hideout, he noticed a car approaching the scrapyard and decided to go out to see what was happening. As he got closer, the boy discovered that Baxter was under the car, which made the driver very angry. After calming the dog, the frustrated man told Charles not to leave his dog unleashed because it could cause big problems in the future. At that moment, the boy discovered that Eva was in the car. The girl revealed that this was her father, who had come to pick up some things from the scrapyard. When she noticed her father returning, she said she would take her dog for a walk, which would allow her to visit her friend. Later that night, the driver returned home. When he noticed Eva wearing her mother's clothes, he became furious and asked her where she was planning to go while she tried to hide her plans. The girl said she was just going for a walk with her dog, but the angry man didn't believe her and smashed her radio, which made her angry, so she left. The girl went to the scrapyard, and when Charles noticed his friend approaching, he locked Baxter in the hideout to prevent his dog from interrupting the meeting. While they enjoyed the view at the scrapyard, Eva revealed that she planned to run away from the city and live with her mother, who was like her. She had left home because she couldn't bear living with her father, who constantly disrespected her. During their conversation, Baxter started barking non-stop. When Eva asked about the dog's behavior, Charles said he had locked him up to avoid bothering them. However, the girl didn't listen to him and decided to free the dog, who quickly tried to get closer to his new owner. Over time, Baxter felt that Charles was no longer treating him the same way and was trying to regain his owner's favor. However, Charles became very angry when Baxter didn't listen to him and kicked the dog, ordering him to stay away from him. At that moment, a stray dog approached the scrapyard, and Baxter, to defend his territory, went toward it and started a fight. When Charles saw what was happening, he quickly went to separate the animals, but when he saw that his dog was winning, he stepped back and let Baxter continue the fight. He realized just how strong his dog was, and the boy began treating him with more respect because now he could use the dog as a fighting machine. One day, during a school bus trip, Eva went to her friend and revealed that her dog had given birth to puppies from Baxter. However, her father didn't want to take care of so many animals and ordered his daughter to get rid of the puppies herself instead of him doing it. When Charles saw the puppies, he offered to adopt them because he had ideas about what to do with them. The next day, while guarding the area around the hideout, the boy met Remy, who still liked to gather materials to make money. While searching for something to recycle among the scrap, the boy decided to go down into the pit in the area. At that moment, Charles appeared and ordered Baxter to attack his friend, who was removing the basket from the pit. Remy panicked and begged Charles to let him go, but Charles ignored him and ordered his dog to finish Remy. However, Baxter felt his owner misunderstood him because he didn't kill his targets without a valid reason, so he froze in place and let Remy escape. Charles became very angry with the dog for not following his orders. The crazed boy locked the animal in the garage and beat him as punishment. Over time, Charles became more disturbed. After examining the puppies, he decided to get rid of them because he felt they might have made Baxter weak. Left outside the scrapyard without food or water, Baxter became terrified, which reawakened his natural instincts. He started running and sniffing the air. His dogs, who disappeared while he was searching, he managed to smell their scent close to him, and when he found the bodies, he got very angry because he immediately understood that Charles was the one who killed them and threw them in the pit. Charles appears very angry at the dog for not listening to him. The boy decided to attack him and threw many things at him. This made the dog scared, and he tried to escape. The problem was that Baxter got completely trapped amidst the junk in the place. leaving him no choice but to wait until his punishment was over. To finish him off completely, the boy grabbed a large metal barrel and tried to throw it at the dog, but its weight caused him to stumble, slip, and fall in front of the dog. When Baxter felt he could finally get his revenge, he approached the crazy boy. But when he heard the sounds his owner had trained him to respond to, he couldn't disobey in that moment. He sat on the ground and became completely weak. The angry Charles grabbed a metal rod from the junk and struck the dog repeatedly to end his life. A few hours passed until Michael and Yvonne searched for their son amidst the junk. When they found him still hitting Baxter's dead body, the man rushed to the boy, who lied and said the dog was about to kill him, leaving him no choice but to defend himself. Hearing that, Michael said everything would be okay. After they hugged their son, the couple took him home. Over time, Charles felt more drawn to the neighbors, so he decided to plan a major incident to cause a big fire in his house and kill. Welcome to Recaply X, your movie recap in a flash. We bring the drama, the action, and the twists in minutes. The movie begins with a young man named Cameron, who works at an ice cream shop. One day he wakes up to find Diana next to him. They promise each other never to abandon one another forever. Suddenly, Cameron wakes up and realizes it was all a dream. Later, his father tells him he wants him to stay with them to figure out what he will do with his life and future career. His mother, however, insists they should not pressure him and let him take his time, but his father gives him only 3 weeks to think of something useful to do. At the ice cream shop where Cameron works, the assistant manager, Lenny, scolds him for being late and tells him he will have to close the shop himself that day. Cameron explains he can't stay late because he has an appointment with Diana. Lenny doesn't believe him and mocks the idea. Doubting Cameron even knows Diana. Meanwhile, a strange woman named Victoria appears standing in front of the neighbor's house. After Cameron finishes work, his colleague complains about having to close the shop late because of him. She asks if he really has an appointment with Diana, or if he's lying. He assures her he has known Diana for a long time. They used to talk a lot, and they share a strong bond. On his way home, Cameron passes by Diana sitting alone in front of her house. Suddenly, Jason and Chad appear and accuse him of taking pictures of her without her permission. They take his phone and throw it away. Diana intervenes before a fight breaks out and asks what is going on. Chad claims they saw Cameron taking pictures of her without her consent. Cameron denies it and goes to retrieve his phone to prove his innocence, but a passing car runs over it, breaking it. Diana diffuses the situation, asking Jason and his friend to leave. Cameron also leaves and heads home. That night, Cameron sees Victoria at the neighbor's house and realizes she notices him watching her through the window. Later, his father finds out about the broken phone and refuses to buy him a new one, saying he should have stood up for himself. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Cameron checks the door camera and sees Victoria, becoming terrified she might tell his father he was spying on her. But when he opens the door, he finds Diana instead. Surprised, he asks her about Victoria, but she claims she hasn't seen anyone and doesn't know who he's talking about. They go to a restaurant for dinner, where Diana apologizes for his phone being broken because of her. At that moment, Cameron spots his friend Martin from afar. Diana tries to stop him from calling Martin over, but he doesn't listen. When Martin joins them, he becomes nervous talking to Diana and quickly leaves. Diana becomes upset with Cameron, who apologizes, not understanding what he did wrong. She explains that Martin was her friend but abandoned her during her graduation party, and she still doesn't know why he did that. To comfort her, Cameron assures her that if he were her friend, he would never abandon her. They continue talking for a while, but suddenly, Victoria appears in the hallway near the house in a strange manner. Cameron quickly excuses himself from Diana and runs to his room. He looks out the window at Victoria, who is staring back at him. Frightened, he closes the window quickly. When he looks again, he finds her inside his room. Terrified, he apologizes for spying on her through the window, explaining he was used to seeing Miss Carpenter in the apartment but hasn't seen her for a while. Victoria tells him she will stay in her house for a few weeks before leaving. Cameron asks her to leave before anyone sees her, but she threatens to tell his father unless he drives her around the city. Afraid, he agrees and drives her around. Eventually, she stops him, takes his car keys, and tells him to wait until she returns. She enters a building where a man welcomes her. When she takes too long, Cameron gets out of the car to check on her and peeks through the window, witnessing something shocking. He rushes back to his car, but a man emerges from the building, bleeding profusely and begging Cameron for help. The man leaves bloodstains on the car window. Suddenly, Victoria appears behind the man, bites his neck, and kills him. She gets into the car with Cameron, who is horrified by what he just witnessed. It becomes clear that Victoria is a vampire. She tells Cameron that he must accompany her wherever she goes, or she will kill him. After they return home, she tells him he must trust her, and then leaves. The next day, Cameron's father notices blood on the car and asks him about it. Victoria arrives at that moment and explains that Cameron hit a deer on the road. She also tells his father she knows Cameron hasn't paid his car insurance and offers to pay it all if he drives her to her destinations every day. Cameron protests, but his father sees no problem with it. Later, Martin approaches Cameron, asking him to reconcile with Diana because he doesn't know how to handle the situation. Martin then goes to Diana, asking for forgiveness and another chance. That night, Cameron takes Victoria to another location and waits in the car for her return. After some time, he sees a body being thrown near the car, leaving him shocked and unsure of what to do. Victoria returns to the car with blood on her hands, drinking it. Before they return home, she makes Cameron thoroughly clean the car of blood. At home, Cameron is terrified. While in bed, he finds Victoria next to him. She tells him why she is in the city. She reveals she is 247 years old, and in 1890, a group of vampires killed her lover because he refused to join them. And you know that a large number of that group traveled to America, and only a few of them remain in this city. She came to take revenge on them and kill them. When Cameron finds out that the ones she's killing aren't human, he tells her she should have told him from the start and informed him. One day, Lenny sees Cameron sitting alone with Diana in a restaurant and can't believe what he's seeing. On the same night, Cameron asks Victoria how many people in the city she is supposed to kill. She tells him there's one she'll finish off tonight and another one she hasn't found yet. This one is the one who killed her lover and is the leader of the group. She promises him that she'll kill him in a brutal way and make him suffer before he dies. They arrive at the location and Victoria asks him to wait for her in the car as always, but Cameron insists on going with her this time. He enters the building with her. At that moment, Victoria goes to eliminate her target. When the man sees Cameron, he shoots him from a distance, causing him to fall to the ground. Victoria attacks the man, bites his neck, and kills him. Afterward, she checks on Cameron, who tells her he was pretending to be hit by the bullet to distract the vampire. She warns him that he must listen to her, as he could have died. Before they part ways, he tells her he can't go anywhere with her tomorrow because he has an appointment with his friend Martin and Diana. She agrees and tells him it's no problem. The next day, Liz invites him to a musical concert because her friends are performing in it. Cameron refuses, saying he's very busy these days. Later, we see Cameron sitting in a restaurant with Martin and Diana. They reminisce about college days, and he jokes about how Martin was terrible at baseball. At one point, Diana excuses herself to go to the bathroom. After she leaves, Victoria arrives, takes Cameron, and leaves. Victoria asks him who was sitting with them, and he tells her it was Diana, whom he's loved for a long time since the first time he saw her in college. When she asks about Martin, he tells her that Martin is his friend who loves Diana just as much as he does. Martin is with them because they had a falling out, and he's helping reconcile them. Victoria is very surprised by his words and doesn't understand his personality. He tells her that Diana will spend some time with Martin, after which she'll discover how boring he is and leave him again. While they're in the car together, Cameron points out Chad and Jason and tells her they always bother him and beat him up whenever they see him, and he doesn't know how to deal with them. Victoria gets out of the car, goes to them, and insults them. Chad refuses to hit her and instead goes to Cameron, continuing to beat him up, while Cameron doesn't even defend himself. Victoria goes to Diana's clothing store and meets her there. At the same time, Cameron is with Liz and senses that she likes him. He tells her that from now on, he'll take better care of himself and accepts her invitation to her friend's concert. Liz is very happy about this, especially since he accepted her invitation. That night, Cameron prepares himself to meet Liz. As he's leaving the house and about to get into his car, he sees Diana's car parked in front of Victoria's house. He becomes curious and decides to find out what's going on. He sneaks up to the house and looks through the window, seeing them sitting together. Meanwhile, Liz is waiting for him at the concert and doesn't know how to reach him. The next day, Cameron sees Diana leaving Victoria's house, getting into her car, and driving off. He then confronts Victoria, upset with her, and tells her he won't continue with her anymore and won't take her anywhere in his car. She attacks him, telling him he'll do everything she says. The next day, he meets his friend Martin, who is very sad, and tells him he wants to get back with Diana because he can't live without her. Later, Cameron goes to work and tells Lenny that he'll go on a quick errand with the car and return soon. As he's about to get into the car, Liz calls out to him, very upset because he didn't show up at the concert as he said he would. She slaps him and pushes him to the ground. Afterward, Cameron goes to Diana's clothing store and tells her that Martin wants to meet her, apologize, and rekindle their relationship. On the same day, his mother gives him a new phone, telling him not to tell his father about it and to keep it a secret between them. Cameron is very happy and thanks her. Martin meets Cameron and tells him he doesn't know what to say to Diana when he sees her. Cameron tells him to wear an earpiece, and he'll tell him what to say. If Diana asks about the earpiece, he should say he's waiting for an important call from the baseball team he plays for. Martin goes to meet Diana and says everything Cameron tells him to say. Both of them are very happy together. Afterward, Diana gives Martin her car keys, telling him to drive and take them wherever he wants. Cameron tells him to take her to his house, but Martin refuses and decides to go somewhere else. Cameron gets angry at him for not listening and decides to follow them in his car. Martin stops the car, and at the same time, Cameron arrives at the location, hiding behind a tree to see what happens. At that moment, Diana removes the earpiece from Martin's ear and throws it on the ground, revealing that she knew all along that Cameron was feeding Martin the lines and that he was watching them from behind the tree. At that moment, Diana bites Martin's neck, and Cameron realizes she's a vampire. He can't believe what he's seeing and runs away from the scene in shock. Cameron goes to the ice cream shop where he works and asks about Liz. Lenny tells him he doesn't know her whereabouts. Cameron leaves the shop and finds Diana in front of him. He tells her to stay away from him because she killed his friend. She tells him that Martin is still alive and didn't die. She takes him and opens the car trunk, revealing Martin unconscious inside. She explains that she bit him to give him strength and make him the best player on the baseball team. Cameron accuses her of betraying him all these past years and not telling him the truth about herself. She responds that she tried to tell him before, but couldn't. He asks her why she waited so long, and she says she was afraid he would reject her and treat her badly. At that moment, she confesses that she has loved him since the first day she saw him. Cameron struggles to process what he's hearing. She also tells him that she didn't want to love him or get involved with any humans because everyone she cared about and loved ended up dying. She explains that she kept her distance because she was sure it wouldn't work out due to her nature being different from humans. Meanwhile, Lenny is observing them and overhears everything Diana says to Cameron. Later that same night, Victoria meets Cameron and tells him that she didn't know Diana was a vampire. When she found out, she didn't tell him to avoid shocking him since he wouldn't believe her. She reveals that the vampire he's been searching for all this time and wants to kill is Diana. She tells him she will take him hostage until Diana comes to rescue him. At that moment, Diana arrives at the house. Suddenly, Lenny confronts her and says he knows her true nature and will expose her to everyone. Diana gets angry, attacks him, and drinks his blood. Afterward, she and Martin break into the house, leading to a fight between her and Victoria. Diana initially loses the fight, but Cameron intervenes and saves her. Victoria grabs a knife and attacks Diana, but it doesn't harm her. Diana then strikes Victoria, throws her to the ground, and tells her she needs to listen to the whole story to understand what really happened a century ago. Diana explains that their leader was a very evil person, and all she ever wanted was to escape and get away from him. When she met Victoria's lover, she told him she wanted to run away. He promised to save her and gave her some of his blood. When the leader found out what happened, he killed Victoria's lover. Upon hearing this, Victoria apologizes to Diana because she wasn't responsible for her lover's death. She's happy to have found someone kind like Diana and expresses her wish for them to live together in peace in the future. They all bid farewell. Diana tells Cameron that she has to leave so he can live his life. She and the others get in the car and leave him alone. The next day, Cameron tells his parents that he wants to become a famous writer and will focus on writing vampire stories. He then goes to the ice cream shop and meets Liz. He apologizes to her and explains everything that happened recently. Liz doesn't believe a word he says, but accepts his apology and decides to continue being with him. And with that, we reach the end of the movie. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Welcome to Plot Twist, your place for quick summaries of movies with jaw-dropping twists. Let's dive in. The movie Main Event begins with a boy named Leo playing a wrestling match at the end of WWE. He manages to defeat a very strong wrestler, and the audience loves him, being amazed by his strength. However, it turns out to be a dream, and his grandmother wakes him up to go to school. It becomes clear that Leo is a very shy boy who loves wrestling and dreams of becoming a wrestler. After some time, he rides his bike and meets his friend on the way, and they head to school together. At school, a boy named Trevor bothers them, mocking Leo with his friends until the teacher arrives and orders them to the principal's office as punishment. During lunch, Leo sits with his friends and keeps looking at his crush, Erica, feeling too shy to talk to her. After school, Trevor and his friends see him and want to take revenge because they were punished because of him. They chase him on their bikes, and Leo tries to escape until he enters a wealthy man's house and hides in a room. Trevor and his friends follow him to catch him, but fortunately, the homeowner sees them and kicks them out. Inside the room, Leo finds wrestling equipment and a strange blue mask with a terrible smell. He decides to try it on, but suddenly the homeowner enters and asks what he's doing there. Leo explains that he was hiding from his classmates who wanted to beat him up and shows him the strange mask he found. The man notices the bad smell of the mask and decides to gift it to Leo. Excited, Leo returns home quickly and watches a wrestling championship with his grandmother. At that moment, an advertisement for a wrestling competition appears, with a prize of $50,000 and the opportunity to become an official wrestler in the Wrestling Federation. Leo and his grandmother are thrilled and decide to attend the competition together. While they were discussing, Leo's father, Steve, enters the kitchen to prepare food. His grandmother scolds him for always working and not paying attention to Leo. Steve apologizes and explains that he took a $20,000 loan from the bank and is working long hours to repay it. The problem is that if he doesn't pay, the bank will seize their house. Leo overhears this and becomes very upset. He goes to his room to think of a way to help his father repay the loan. He then notices the strange mask he had taken and decides to try it on. To his surprise, his voice changes, sounding like an older man, and he can jump long distances. He even lifts a wardrobe with one finger and realizes that the mask is magical and gives him superpowers. He goes outside to test it, kicks down a tree with his foot, and is shocked by the mask's power. Back in his room, Leo researches the mask and learns that it is a magical mask dating back 3,000 years, granting superpowers to those who deserve it. The next day at school, he sees Trevor and his friends bullying one of his friends. Leo turns off the lights, puts on the mask, and fights them, hanging them by their clothes. When the lights come back on, the students laugh at them, realizing Leo was behind it, and they applaud him. After school, Leo talks to his friends and sees an advertisement on TV for the wrestling competition. He decides to enter it to win the $50,000 prize and pay off his father Steve's loan. On the competition day, Leo registers under the alias Chaos and sits with the other wrestlers. He befriends a good wrestler named Smooth. During their conversation, the competition manager announces the first round, which involves throwing heavy barrels as far as possible to qualify for the next round. A strong wrestler named Samson throws 2 barrels a great distance, impressing everyone. When it's Leo's turn, he throws the barrel farther than all the wrestlers, even outside the building, astonishing everyone with his strength and qualifying for the next round. This round involves jumping from the ring, and Leo surprises everyone by jumping an incredible distance. The competition manager announces the 16 wrestlers who qualified, including Leo, who sets new records. That night, Leo sneaks back into his room through the window, so his grandmother doesn't know he was out late. However, she is waiting for him, and he has to tell her about the magical mask and his participation in the competition to win the prize and pay off his father's loan. She is happy for him and promises not to tell anyone about the mask. She also promises to watch and cheer for him in the competition. The next day at school, Leo sits with his friends in the library and sees Erica, his crush. He hesitates to talk to her, so his friends encourage him. He decides to wear the mask to boost his confidence and talks to her from behind the bookshelf so no one sees him wearing the mask. He invites her to his house to study together, and she agrees. After school, Leo heads to the competition, where the new round involves a wrestling match between two wrestlers, with the winner advancing to the next round. When it's Leo's turn, he faces a professional wrestler who tries to hit him with a rope. But Leo grabs the rope, ties up the wrestler, and jumps on him, winning the match easily. The audience is amazed by his strength, and his grandmother is thrilled to see him qualify for the quarterfinals. When Leo returns home, Erica comes over to study with him. As usual, he feels shy and awkward, so he puts on the mask behind her to feel confident. He offers her a drink, but she notices the bad smell from the mask and asks about it. He quickly removes the mask, puts it in the fridge, and says he doesn't smell anything. When the competition day arrives, Leo plays his quarterfinal match against a very large wrestler, and as usual, wins easily thanks to the magical mask. Meanwhile, wrestler Samson and his manager watch Leo and feel threatened, fearing he might win the competition and take the prize. Later, Leo talks to his wrestler friend Smooth, who also won and qualified for the quarterfinals. Smooth tells Leo that he has been wrestling for a long time and dreams of winning this competition to qualify for the WWA Championship. Afterward, Leo sits with Erica and his friends at a restaurant. Erica mentions wanting to enter a dance competition, but is hesitant because she has never danced in front of anyone. Leo encourages her and offers to join the competition and dance with her to help her perform together. Erica agrees and tells him it's a very good idea. Suddenly, a thief breaks into the restaurant to rob it. Leo and his friends hide under the table, and at that moment, Leo is forced to wear the mask in front of his friends. They are shocked and realize he is Chaos, who appeared in the wrestling competition on television. Leo throws ice cream at the thief, beats him, and throws him out of the restaurant. The police arrest the thief, and everyone applauds Leo for his actions. A reporter comes to interview him on television, and wrestler Samson watches him on TV feeling upset. Later, Leo goes to practice dancing with his friend Erica so they can dance together in the dance competition. When the wrestling competition approaches, his grandmother encourages him and tells him he must win this match to qualify for the finals. He gets excited and heads to the wrestling ring, where he finds out that this match will be against his friend Smooth. The winner will face Samson in the finals. Samson's manager places a slippery substance on the stairs Leo has to climb because he wants Leo to lose to avoid facing Samson. When Leo steps on the stairs, he slips and can't move. The match begins and Smooth throws Leo out of the ring. He then picks him up and throws him back in, cleaning him off. Smooth is about to win the match, but Leo escapes, picks him up, throws him to the ground, and wins the match at the last moment. Leo praises his friend Smooth for playing honorably. With that, he qualifies for the finals of the competition. He meets his grandmother and friends, removes his mask, and Samson's manager sees him, realizing he is just a boy. The magical mask gives him strength. Leo talks to his friends and tells them he has a press conference to attend. Erica reminds him that the dance competition is today, and that he needs to finish the conference and go to the competition to perform their routine. He agrees and attends the press conference, where he mocks Samson, calling him a weak wrestler. Samson gets angry and attacks him, but the guards stop him and escort him out of the conference. Leo takes photos with fans, loses track of time, and forgets about the dance competition. Erica gets upset and dances alone on stage. Her friend tries to join her and encourages her, and the audience claps for her, admiring her dancing. Later, Leo arrives and is surprised to find the competition is over. His friends are upset with him and scold him for prioritizing taking photos with fans over the competition. Leo tells them he is now famous, and his interests are more important than Erica's. Erica gets upset, calls him arrogant, and leaves with the others. Back home, Leo sits and draws, feeling upset. His father, Steve, comes to talk to him, but Leo gets angry and speaks rudely, telling him he doesn't want to talk. His grandmother scolds him for his behavior, telling him his personality has changed since he wore the magical mask and became famous. She explains that a person's mind and heart are 100 times stronger than the mask, and that the mask won't help him if he loses his friends and family. Leo understands her words and goes to apologize to his friends, telling them he didn't mean to upset them. They forgive him and agree to watch his final match against Samson to cheer him on. On the day of the match, Leo enters with his grandmother to change clothes. When he removes the mask, Samson's manager appears and tells him he knows everything about him and the magical mask. While they are talking, Samson takes advantage of Leo's distraction, steals the magical mask, and replaces it with a fake one that looks identical. Samson and his manager leave the room. Later, Samson enters the ring for the final match, which takes place in a cage. Leo enters wearing the mask, greeting the audience, unaware that the mask he is wearing is fake. The referee announces the famous wrestler She-Mask, and the match begins. Leo tries to hit Samson but is surprised that Samson is unaffected. He doesn't understand what's happening. Samson reveals the magical mask from his pocket, showing Leo that the one he is wearing is fake. Leo removes the fake mask. His father, Steve, sees this on television and decides to go to the competition to save him. Leo realizes Samson's weakness is heights. He devises a plan to anger Samson, making him look down and lose consciousness. Leo's plan works. Samson falls and loses consciousness. Leo seizes the opportunity, jumps on him, and defeats him, winning the $50,000 prize. The competition manager informs Leo that he cannot enter the WWE Championship because he is still young. Leo decides to let his friend Smooth enter the championship in his place. 2 weeks later, Leo joins his school's wrestling team and decides to train to become a professional wrestler without using the magical mask. The movie ends. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Welcome to Plot Twist, your place for quick summaries of movies with jaw-dropping twists. Let's dive in. Our movie begins in the Mischief Amusement Park amidst a small celebration covered by all media outlets. It's Alexandra's birthday, the daughter of the head of state. When a journalist asks her about her father, she responds with a sly look, saying that her father will attend the celebration today, hinting at something she's planning, which we will learn about later. Their conversation is interrupted by Dinky, the amusement park manager, who asks Alexandra if she's ready for fun and adventures. Excited, she says she is, and he takes her to explore the park. However, she finds the rides boring and keeps asking if each one is the most dangerous until they reach the last and most important ride, the Mischief Ride. Dinky explains that it's the most dangerous ride because it's a giant robot holding a ball in its hand, lifting it rapidly and throwing it into the air. Alexandra decides to try it out and insists on riding alone, even taking the control key for the ride without anyone noticing. As the ride starts slowly, it suddenly speeds up when the manager tries to control it, but can't find the key, realizing Alexandra has taken it. She steps out of her ball and stands in front of the robot, threatening to jump unless her father comes to her birthday party immediately. The security team is forced to call for help from the Spy Kids team. Carmen and her brother Johnny arrive with advanced climbing gear, scaling the ride with ease. Meanwhile, Gary and his sister Gertie, also part of the Spy Kids team, but with better skills and equipment, reach Alexandra faster. The two teams are rivals. When they reach her, they try to convince her to come down, but she insists her father must be the one to get her. They promise to arrange it, but then someone informs the guards that Alexandra has stolen a device belonging to her father. The rescue team manages to stop the ride and bring her down safely. Gary hands the strange device to the guards, and the mission ends with Alexandra and the device returned safely. Later, Carmen tells her mother, who is also a spy, that she wants to take on Cougar missions with her brother. Her mother explains that mission assignments are determined by the agency, and as new members, they can't take on level 1 missions. Carmen, eager to prove her skills, hacks into the Ministry of Defense website, but her mother scolds her, saying hacking is not allowed in their home. Meanwhile, their father Gregor helps Johnny get ready for a big celebration where the president may choose the new leader of the secret spy organization. At the event, spy kids from around the world meet and mingle. Johnny notices something suspicious about some of the servers distributing drinks. Gary and Gertie join them, and it's clear Johnny dislikes Gary, who Carmen seems to admire. When Gary asks Carmen to dance, Johnny tries to intervene, but she ignores him. Her father notices and questions Gary before reluctantly allowing them to dance. As the president begins his speech to announce the new leader of the spy organization, he thanks Gary and Gertie for saving his daughter and retrieving the device, but doesn't mention Carmen and Johnny, even though they helped. The president announces Gregor as the new leader, but at the last moment, the title is given to Duncan, Gary, and Gertie's father. Duncan's first decision is to promote his children to level 1 agents, allowing them to take on major missions. As everyone celebrates, the guests raise their glasses for a toast, but the drinks are laced with a sedative, causing everyone to pass out except the kids, who weren't allowed to drink. Carmen discovers the sedative in her mother's glass, and Johnny notices the suspicious servers stealing the strange device from the unconscious president. The kids quickly form a plan, locking down the venue to prevent the thieves from escaping. A fierce battle ensues between the spy kids and the gang, with Gary and Johnny competing over who gets to retrieve the device. In the chaos, the device falls into the hands of one of the thieves, who activates it, emitting a powerful beam that disables the kids' weapons. He keeps sabotaging all the weapons, but Carmen doesn't give up and tries to fight them off with spoons. Suddenly, a strong magnetic ship appears above them, attracting all the metal spoons, taking the gang members along with it and flying away. Of course, they had the device with them. Afterward, all the guests regain consciousness, realize what happened, and stop the fight that was still ongoing between Johnny and Jerry. They shout to the boss that the Trana smoker device has been stolen. At that moment, Jerry points at Johnny, and it becomes clear that Johnny will face severe punishment. The next day, at the secret spy organization, Johnny's picture, once displayed as the ideal student, is removed, and Jerry takes his place. Jerry recounts to them what happened, explaining that he had already taken the device from the gang, but Johnny lost it and fought with him. The boss concludes by saying that if the device falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy the world. Duncan, the head of the organization, decides to expel Johnny. He hands the expulsion letter to Johnny's father, who looks at his son with disappointment. Meanwhile, the gang arrives at a strange place filled with bizarre animals and hands the device to their leader. Johnny returns home, upset about what happened. His sister, Carmen, tries to console him, telling him she knows what happened but has a plan to fix the situation. She takes him to their secret treehouse. Once inside, they say their names to open the gate. Carmen tells her brother she'll restore his position in the organization, but Johnny says he's seriously considering retirement to return to his dreams and normal life. She stops him, saying he loves his job in the organization but hides it. She promises to help him regain his position and achieve great success by retrieving the Trana smoker device. She activates their equipment, hidden underground, presses some buttons on the computer, and sees through the cameras that Jerry and Jerry are heading to the director's office. Carmen asks her brother if he still has his robot in the office. He spots it there and assigns it the task of sneaking into the director's office undetected to eavesdrop on Jerry and Jerry's new mission. The robot successfully makes its way there and hides above, remaining unseen. Meanwhile, Johnny and Carmen overhear the director discussing the new mission. He mentions a Bermuda Triangle-like area where ships and vehicles mysteriously disappear. Many of the organization's ships and vehicles have vanished there. The area isn't marked on the map, but those who returned from it shared strange stories about what they saw. The team tracked the location of the disappearing ships and found it to be the same place where the magnetic ship that took the device had docked. Using coordinates, they pinpointed its location. Duncan decides to send a small ship with 2 of his best operatives to retrieve the device. Naturally, those 2 are Jerry and Jerry. After learning this information, Carmen hacks into the organization system to reinstate Johnny as an agent. She also restores his access card and registers herself and her brother for the mission to retrieve the device. They reroute Jerry and Jerry's mission, sending them to a distant desert instead. Suddenly, there's a knock at their door. They quickly hide, but it turns out to be their friend, who brings them the latest equipment and tools to help with their mission. He emphasizes that the most important thing isn't the tools, but the mind using them. After preparing for their new mission, they head to Felix, who oversees the organization's spacecraft and assigns each ship to its mission. Felix is surprised that Johnny has returned to the organization so quickly after being expelled, but Johnny explains that he was reinstated the same day. Their conversation is interrupted by Jerry and Jerry, who are preparing for their mission. They greet Carmen and Johnny. Carmen notices Jerry's watch and asks about it. He explains that the watch can do anything he thinks of, even providing information about all the equipment Carmen and Johnny have. It reveals that their equipment is outdated. Jerry pulls out Johnny's robot, claiming he accidentally stepped on it and broke it. He mocks them, saying equipment determines success, then boards his ship with his sister and departs. Soon after, Felix brings Carmen and Johnny their ship, a large snake-shaped vessel equipped with the latest technology. Carmen finds some information about the mysterious island they're heading to, but there's little detail about how to complete their mission. She discovers a picture of Duncan, the organization's leader, and wonders about his connection to the island. She tells her brother that the only person who can help them and answer their questions is someone named Minion. They contact him, and he turns out to be a person with 4 heads, possessing high intelligence. When Carmen asks him about the island and the Trana smoker device, he says he believes Duncan is behind it all and that the secret lies on the island and with the island's owner. Carmen doesn't understand what he means but thanks him and ends the call. Meanwhile, Johnny is sending a message to the boss's daughter when their ship suddenly crashes into something, stops, and loses power. The ship refuses to move and all their advanced equipment fails. They are forced to operate everything manually. They take their oxygen tanks and flashlights, exit the ship, and find that it's flooded with water. They swim to the equipment cabin, retrieve their gear, and wear suits that allow them to float. When they surface, they can't remove the inflated suits. Johnny remarks that they're in a better situation than Jerry and his sister, who are likely in the desert by now. Indeed, Jerry and Jerry find themselves in a strange desert, unsure of their location. When they use their equipment to determine their location, suddenly, they fall into the mud, realizing their suits malfunction to identify the location. But suddenly they fall into the mud again, understanding that someone has tampered with their mission. Of course, they know it's Carmen and her brother. They decide to take revenge when they see them. Later, we return to when the organization made its decision. We see Carmen's mother heading to the trunk to speak with him. They look through pictures of missions they carried out with her parents, who were also part of the spy organization. Gregor realizes his wife wants to invite her parents for a visit, but it's clear he doesn't like them, and there are issues between them. He tells her that if she invites them, he won't attend. However, she tells him he has to attend because she has already invited them. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by the entrance of Duncan, the organization's director. He informs them that the organization received news about the ship heading to Transmoker Island, which got lost and is untraceable. Gregor and his wife initially think Duncan's children went and disappeared, but Duncan clarifies that it was their children, Carmen and Johnny. At that moment, the parents become very worried about their children. Duncan assures them he will personally go to rescue them from the island, but they refuse, saying they will retrieve their children themselves. Duncan bids them farewell as they prepare, but at the last moment, he stops them, informing them that their parents have arrived. The mother realizes he means her parents, whom she invited. She goes to meet them, explaining she has a mission to rescue her children. Her parents insist on joining her to save their grandchildren, but they refuse and board the ship alone. Meanwhile, Carmen and her brother are still stuck in the middle of the sea, unable to move due to their suits. Suddenly, a massive 2-headed monster appears, blowing them forcefully to the shore. They manage to remove their suits and explore the island, but their electronic tent doesn't work. It seems they must build a traditional tent. The gang is monitoring them and knows they are on the island. Back at the organization's headquarters, the traitor Duncan celebrates his new position, which he obtained fraudulently as the head of the secret spy organization. He opens his screen to communicate with the gang he collaborated with from the beginning. He asks them about the location of the island's owner, and they inform him they found him hiding underground. He instructs them to dig him out and promises to join them shortly. We return to Carmen, who is exploring the island. Her brother Johnny builds a swing and relaxes on it. When she asks him to join her to explore the island, he refuses, saying he's comfortable. She tries to provoke him, saying if Gary were in his place, he would go with her to explore the island. Johnny still refuses, so she pushes him off the swing, and he agrees to go with her. Meanwhile, Gary and his sister arrive at the island to retrieve the Transmoker device and complete their original mission. They rush with their ship to catch up with Carmen and her brother. Their ship stops, and the same thing happens to them as it did to the others. When they surface, the monster blows them to the shore. Finding the suits of the other two, they realize they have reached the island and begin searching for them. Carmen and her brother encounter massive rocks. Suddenly, Carmen hears a sound behind her and sees one of the gang members flying toward them. They hide to avoid being seen. Carmen tells her brother they must follow the same path as the man because it's the island's secret. Johnny feels hungry and takes out chocolate to eat, but hears the sound of a huge animal. Frightened, they run and climb a mountain. At the top, they find a volcanic crater. Suddenly, a giant bird appears behind them, causing Johnny to fall into the crater. His sister ties a rope to the peak and descends to save him, but the rope unfortunately breaks and both fall. Strangely, they keep falling for about 4 hours until they finally reach a smaller volcano in a peculiar place. Carmen spots someone hiding and calls out, asking who he is and what he's doing there. He steps out, introducing himself as Romero, the only human on the island. He takes them down from the volcano and sets them on the ground. Carmen tells him they've been falling for 4 hours, but he surprises her by saying they only fell for 1 minute. Everything they saw was an illusion created by his science. Suddenly, they hear the sounds of the island's animals. Romero takes them to a safe place inside his lab. They ask him about the strange animals, and he explains that he created them as a result of failed experiments. Romero elaborates that he initially aimed to create a fortune by designing a zoo for every child, calling it Romero's Miniature Zoo, featuring tiny versions of animals like elephants and lions. The project was successful, but he wanted to take it further by creating mythical creatures, such as a horse with a parrot's head or a fish with a spider's body. However, he felt they were too small and tried to enlarge them. Unfortunately, the enlarging liquid spilled, turning the animals into giant, terrifying creatures that broke out of the lab and escaped into the wilderness. Since then, Romero has been hiding in his lab, afraid to leave. Carmen asks about the secret that keeps the island completely hidden and off the map. Romero reveals he invented a device that cloaks the entire island, prevents electronics from functioning on it, and disrupts any radar trying to locate it. Johnny realizes he's referring to the device. Romero is surprised he knows its name. Carmen explains that many entities are trying to steal his device. Their conversation is interrupted by the sound of people screaming. Carmen asks if there are others on the island. Romero takes his miniature animals with him to investigate. When they reach the source of the screams, they find people hanging from the mountain. They rescue them and learn that their father, Duncan, is coming to the island. So the four of them go to Romero, who tells them that he works for Don Juan. At that moment, Carmen and Johnny understand that their father is a traitor. They also learn that the trans-smoker device stolen from the president was a replica, while the real one is on the island, much larger and more powerful. Donyan is coming to seize it, and since he is now the head of the organization, he will be able to control the world, shutting down all devices and electricity. However, the two don't believe this about their father and accuse them of trying to make them hate him. Meanwhile, Gertie secretly steals Romero's invention book and goes with her brother Gary, who tells them that even if their father is a traitor and bad, he still supports him. Then we move to the ship where Gregor and his wife are heading to rescue their children from the two of them. The problem is that they can't locate them on the map, but Gregor remembers that he placed a tracking device in his children's teeth. This allows him to pinpoint their location on the map. Suddenly, they hear a loud knock on the ship's door. When Gregor goes to check, he finds his in-laws have snuck onto the ship to join the mission and save their grandchildren. Despite Gregor and his wife's objections and requests for them to return, the grandparents insist they can protect themselves during the mission. They reveal their weapons and wings for flying, leaving Gregor and his wife no choice but to let them come along. Meanwhile, Carmen thinks the only solution to the problem is to destroy the large trans-smoker on the island. Romero tells her it's on the other side of the island and difficult to reach. Johnny pulls out the map and asks him to bomb a path for them, but Romero warns that the predators won't leave them alone. Johnny insists that the animals are not fierce but kind, thinking they're trying to connect with him since he created them. Romero disagrees, calling them predators, but he describes the device's location and how to stop it. The two set off with a magnetic device, but Gary and his sister are secretly observing them and figure out where they're going. They decide to follow them to prevent them from destroying the device. The problem arises when animals attack Carmen and her brother's device, forcing them to jump off it. They then find Gary and Gertie have gotten ahead of them, leaving them to figure out what to do. Meanwhile, Alexandra Binta, the president, is studying when she receives a message from Johnny, sent from the ship, asking her to talk to her father. Suddenly, the call cuts off due to an issue on the ship. She tries to reconnect but fails. Back on the ship, the four passengers are on their way to rescue Carmen and her brother. However, everyone has a different opinion, leading Gregor to shout at them to be quiet, asserting his control over the ship. Carmen and her brother deduce that Don Juan orchestrated everything to lure their parents to the island and destroy the entire family together. Carmen decides that she and her brother must sacrifice themselves to prevent their parents from finding them. They remove the tracking devices from their mouths and destroy them, disappearing from Gregor's map. The mother realizes that if both children disappeared at once, they must have hidden themselves and destroyed the tracking devices. But the grandfather remembers giving Johnny a necklace with a tracking device, allowing them to locate him on the map. As for Carmen and Johnny, they ponder how to reach the trans-smoker when they suddenly encounter a spider-like creature with a monkey head. They quickly jump into the Mayan well. Meanwhile, Gary and Gertie look for a faster way to reach the trans-smoker and come across a large snake with a dinosaur body. They decide to ride it to reach their destination quicker. The Mayan well leads Carmen and her brother to a strange place resembling an ancient cave filled with gold, statues, jewels, and skeletons. They find they cannot speak but can read each other's thoughts, communicating telepathically. The place seems cursed. Johnny finds a beautiful necklace and considers taking it, but his sister warns him about the curse. He waits for her to leave and takes it anyway. When they leave, they find the skeletons have moved. Carmen and her brother face two paths to exit the cave, choosing one that leads them back to the cave. They repeat the process to exit through the second door. Johnny considers returning the necklace but finds the skeletons have disappeared. Suddenly, his sister screams, and he grabs a sword from the ground to save her. He finds all the skeletons gathered around her and fights them. She asks him what caused the skeletons to attack, realizing he must have taken something from the cave. He lies, denying it. Suddenly, a flying pig grabs his sister and takes her away, leaving him unable to save her as the skeletons return. He apologizes to them, returns the stolen necklace, and goes to find his sister. Carmen, meanwhile, is taken to the creature's nest in a tree, where she finds Gertie, who tells her the pig also kidnapped her and brought her there. When Carmen asks about her brother, Gertie says he went to find Johnny to fight him. Johnny reaches a strange wide area and takes out his chocolate to eat. He encounters the monkey-headed spider creature, gives it his chocolate, and befriends it. Suddenly, Gary arrives riding the dinosaur, ready to fight. The monkey spider creature defends Johnny, and a battle ensues between the two creatures. Romero observes the situation from afar, realizing he must intervene to save the day. Carmen talks to Gertie, agreeing that even if their father is wrong, they must correct his thinking without creating enmity. Suddenly, the flying pig returns, and they jump from the tree. Carmen opens her parachute to save Gertie, and they run off to search. About their siblings, Romero decided to go out to control the animals, but he found someone standing at the door preventing him from leaving. Meanwhile, Gary and Johnny were still fighting using their animals. It seemed that Gary's dinosaur was strong, but Johnny's ape was still strong as well. The ape managed to save Johnny, sacrificing itself to rescue him from the falling pole. Gary, happy, told Johnny that his animal had died and he would make sure to follow it. Immediately, Carmen punched him to defend her brother. When the dinosaur tried to attack her, the ape got up again, spun a spider web on the dinosaur, and tied up Gary to prevent him from attacking Johnny. In the end, Carmen saved her brother, and they left. Gertie also went to save her brother, Gary. At this point, Dungeon arrived on the island, heading toward the Transmooker. Meanwhile, Johnny and Carmen reached the Transmooker and were just about to unlock it when Gary and Gertie entered with Romero, whom they had captured. Worse still, Dungeon arrived, threatening to kill them if they didn't step away from the Transmooker. However, the two ignored him and unlocked the Transmooker, freeing Carmen. But Dungeon demanded they hand it over. They tossed it into the air and took the flying pig. Dungeon, furious, asked them where its nest was. His daughter claimed to know the nest's location and had Romero's book, which could help them modify the Transmooker. They all headed to the nest's location. Carmen discovered that electronic devices were working again, and Romero explained that since they had unlocked the Transmooker, all devices were back online. They activated the man's rockets to fly and outpaced Dungeon and his family. Carmen managed to reach the flying pig's nest, took the Transmooker, and left with her brother. Romero found the animals gathering around him and realized Johnny was right. All the animals were kind and even liked him. Carmen and her brother returned to their electronic tent, where they tried to contact their parents, only to find all four of them standing before them. They quickly recounted everything that had happened. Suddenly, they noticed Dungeon's eye spying on them. The two families stood face to face. Unfortunately, Dungeon managed to take the device from them, disable their weapons, and handed it to Gertie to activate. After she did so and gave it to her father, Johnny sent a signal to the small planes to come and capture Dungeon's guards and the rest of his crew, leaving only Dungeon himself. At that moment, Gregor suggested they settle the matter hand to hand. They began fighting, but it was clear their strength was equal. Dungeon aimed the device at the grandparents to harm them, but surprisingly, Gregor sacrificed himself to protect them. Strangely, the device exploded, revealing that Gertie had rigged it to blow up because she followed Carmen's advice to correct her father's wrongdoings. The biggest surprise was when Alexandra brought her father, the president, to the island, and he witnessed everything that had happened. Romero arrived with his animals and took the device. The president decided to remove Dungeon from leading the organization. The grandparents thanked Gregor for his willingness to sacrifice his life for them. He replied that he did it because they were his family. The president then appointed Gregor as the new head of the secret spy organization, dismissed Gary, and replaced him with Johnny, offering him the top rank. However, Johnny declined the position, telling Alexandra he wanted to live his life freely. They boarded the ship to return home. Johnny held his sister Carmen's hand, and before they left, Romero gave him a miniature version of the spider-bodied ape, thanking him for being right and for showing him that the animals loved him. And that was the end of the movie. Watch the previous videos and stay.
Hey film fans! Welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. The movie begins with someone crazy. His name is Yuichi, goes to a strange well. He is always accustomed to throwing girls' corpses into it constantly, wanting to summon a powerful demon to take revenge on the people who have wronged him all their lives. And now he even have a live broadcast of the moment he will die. People are waiting casually, thinking it's all just an act. But they have no idea about the curse they've fallen into. A regular employee waiting for the bus to go home. The bus arrives and picks up all the employees except him. He's engrossed in his laptop, watching the cursed video of Yuti. He hears a strange sound from the video, gets terrified, loses control, and stands in the middle of the road. A car hits him, leading to his death. Akane, plagued by many nightmares, lives with her brother Takanori, an advertisement designer. He checks on her, asking if she's still having those strange nightmares. She tells him she's fine. The strange nightmares tell him she's fine. The police begin investigating the incident. Eyewitnesses say the man was completely normal before standing in the middle of the road. The crime is labeled as suicide. But the problem is that suicide cases have significantly increased this week. Young people are watching a video of someone committing suicide, and then they follow suit. But Detective Kozawa doesn't believe it. Akane goes to school for work and finds a student named Noriko, who isn't paying attention in class. She's browsing the cursed video of Yuti. Her friend warns her, saying that watching this video leads to death, but Noriko doesn't care. Every time she tries to access the link, it turns out to be invalid. Akane, the teacher, catches her and takes her phone. When she plays the video, it turns out to be a comedic video, not the cursed one. She goes home and finds her brother Takanori with his friend's son, who is skilled with computers. He too is trying to find the cursed video. The virus has spread among the youth, and despite witnessing deaths, their curiosity is killing them. Sun tells them that Yuti, the creator of the video, seemed to utter a strange word before his death, which cursed everyone who watches the video. He tries his luck again but doesn't find the video. Noriko keeps trying but eventually gives up. She goes to study but hears a strange sound. When she picks up her phone, the cursed video appears, and the demoness shows up, killing her. Akane wakes up to a strange call from the school, informing her of Noriko's death. She can't believe it. She goes to school and cancels classes in mourning. Noriko's friend is deeply affected by her death. Detective Kozawa asks Akane if Noriko showed any strange signs yesterday. She denies it and says they were just laughing together. He asks if Noriko experienced any harassment or anything unusual. She denies it again. He says it's the first time he's seen someone commit suicide while playing a video on their phone. Akane walks away and encounters the student Kim, who tells her that Noriko must have seen the video. There's no way she committed suicide. She was killed. Meanwhile, Detective Kozawa is observing them and hears them discussing the cursed video, but Kim doesn't believe it, insisting that the demon in the video is the one who killed her. The detective requests a full report on the cursed video to solve the case. Is it real or just fiction? A colleague of the detective tells him the video is real. Yuti, the creator of the site where the video was uploaded, committed suicide right after posting it, and everyone who watched the video died afterward. When they researched the deceased, they found they were all from the same city and died in the order they watched the video, which is scientifically impossible unless the video is truly cursed. Sun contacts Akane and her brother, telling them Yuti's site was shut down after the suicide video. But people believe his works are still ongoing and are convinced the video is cursed and contains a demon. The reason Yuti summoned the demon remains unknown. Detective Kozawa visits Yuti's old house, hoping to find something. He discovers a massive house for someone who lived alone. The last time people saw Yuti was 2 weeks ago. Yuti was known for his respect and politeness. Kozawa finds out that Yuti faced heavy criticism in his final days for the drawings he created. Since then, the suicide video was uploaded to the site. This could explain his death, the criticism he faced. Kim continues searching online for the cursed video to understand why her friend Noriko died. Suddenly, the screen turns black, and Yuti appears with a woman with black hair who kills him. She tries to kill Kim too, but Akane intervenes and screams at the demon, killing it. Kim is taken to the hospital, suffering a nervous breakdown, repeatedly saying the demon will kill her. The detective questions her but gets no useful answers. He tells her not to mention the cursed video because he's a police officer who believes in facts. He asks if she knew Yuti, and she denies it. As she leaves, he tells her not to tell the students anything because Kim will return to school in 2 days, and there's no need to worry them. Out of fear, she warns her brother Takanori not to watch the video. He laughs and promises her he won't. The next day at school, her brother calls her, telling her that someone online claimed the cursed video is looking for a specific person, as if it's an electronic message. The call disconnects, and the electricity flickers. She enters the classroom and finds messages about the video. She fears for the students and tells them to escape quickly. It turns out to be her imagination, and everything is calm, but the students are scared of her. The principal decides to give her a leave of absence, considering her a danger to the students. She walks the streets, distracted and unsure of what's happening to her. When she looks at an advertisement board, she sees the same black hair of the demoness on it. Terrified, people don't understand what's wrong with her. At home, her brother finds the computer screen turning on by itself. When she senses the video playing, she tries to turn it off but fails. The demon emerges and she screams at it, killing it again. They decide to escape, but they find a billboard screen behind Akane, and the demons appear. They flee quickly and come across a mobile advertisement vehicle with a giant screen. A surprise happens. The demoness appears and captures Takanori. The driver can't understand why she's scared of a simple advertisement board. Akane recalls when she was young and a crazy man with a knife attacked the school. Amid her friend's fear, she stood like a lion and screamed in his face. Despite protecting them, they accused her of madness and distanced themselves from her, except for her brother Takanori, who always cared for her. Even when she thought of ending her miserable, sad life, he was her only friend and helped her amidst everyone. Detective Kozawa, unable to solve the case, decides to close it. He finds his colleague, the detective, has turned into half a demon after watching the cursed video. The colleague points a gun at him, seemingly about to kill him, but instead kills himself. Akane encounters Sun, who tells her the solution lies with Kim and that all of them will die. She chases him, but finds he has disappeared. When she looks beside her, she sees he has turned into a ghost after the demon killed him. Detective Kozawa decides to search Yuti's house for the last time. He might find something while sitting on his chair and saw something strange moving on the wall. When he reached out his hand, a strange brush flew away, and he witnessed something beyond belief. A strange demon named Sadokawa, who came to destroy humanity. Its body was located in a strange well, and it required human sacrifices to revive itself. Kozawa realized the danger and needed to understand more. Akane ran to the hospital to save Kim, who, without control, climbed to the top of the hospital, preparing to end her life. Akane rushed to save her, and Kim kept saying she didn't want to die. Detective Kozawa provided more information. Yuti wanted to revive the demon Sadakawa to take revenge on those who wronged him. Sadakawa was once an ordinary girl born with supernatural powers. Anyone who looked at her would die instantly. Yuti wanted to revive her to gain her powers, but he failed, and she took his soul instead. She was still alive in the well of the house where she died. Yuti opened the door for a demon that would destroy all humans. They reached the house and found the well. When Detective Kozawa looked into it, a strange demon attacked him and killed him. Not just one, but many. Akane quickly tried to hide somewhere, but they managed to find her. She got stuck in the door opening, but she escaped and killed them. After they died, they turned into strange insects. She hid and found a wardrobe in front of her. The demons surrounded her, trapping her. She fought them off, killing them, while searching for Sadokawa to kill her and free her brother Takanori. She found him, but he was trapped in the phone, and hundreds of demons were coming for her. She had no choice but to scream at them all, killing them all. She freed her brother, and finally, Sadokawa appeared before her. Akane begged her to free her brother, saying the problem was between them, but Sadokawa told her that they were once together, close to each other, and had special powers. If combined, they could control the entire world. Akane replied that she used her power to kill demons, while Sadakawa used hers to revive demons to kill humans. "There's a big difference between us," she said. But Sadakawa didn't care. She merged herself with Akane. Her eyes turned red, and her black hair covered her. Her brother Takanori couldn't believe his sister sacrificed her life for him. He grabbed a rock beside him and smashed the phone in anger. A surprising twist occurred. His sister reappeared, having succeeded in defeating evil with the goodness and kindness in her heart. Takanori joined her, and together they embarked on a difficult adventure where the power of good triumphed. the strength of siblings overcame evil. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Welcome to Cinepro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. Our movie begins in a large forest in Colombia, with two hunters holding their rifles, waiting for any prey to approach them. We learn that part of this forest is safe, but another part is dangerous due to the presence of venomous snakes, which is why entry into that area is forbidden. We also find out that these two young men were thieves who used to rob tourists visiting the forest. However, recently they started hunting snakes because their skins are extremely valuable and much more profitable for them. One of them objects to this, believing that stealing is better than hunting, as the snakes in the area are very dangerous and terrifyingly large. But the other responds, saying they need to take risks if they want to earn more. While they are talking, they sense movement around them and conclude that there is a snake nearby. Each of them starts searching in different directions until one of them falls to the ground and is shocked to find a decomposed corpse. Time passes, and we see a couple named Josh and Sophia arriving in the city. We learn that they are doctors attending a medical conference. They have left their children at home and plan to stay for a short period before returning. It becomes apparent that they are on the verge of separating and plan to finalize their divorce immediately upon returning. However, the reasons are not disclosed. Josh feels bored with their silence during the journey, so he takes the opportunity to ask Sophia how she feels upon arriving in her birth city. However, she avoids talking to him and keeps her responses brief. Josh is seen carrying a city guidebook, a habit of his, as he likes to plan city tours in advance. He notices that the city is surrounded by forests and expresses excitement about visiting one of them. Sophia, however, tells him they won't have time for outings because the conference preparations will consume all their time. This is also their first time leaving their children behind, which makes Sophia anxious. It becomes clear that she and Josh argue over the smallest things. They arrive at the hotel, where they are welcomed by their friend Marcus, who is also attending the conference. Unaware of their decision to separate, Marcus treats them normally and invites them to dinner at the hotel that evening. After he leaves, the couple discovers that Marcus booked them a single room, not knowing about their issues. Sophia asks the receptionist for a separate room, but the receptionist apologizes, explaining that all rooms are fully booked due to the conference. As a result, they are forced to share the same room but decide to sleep in separate areas. Sophia is visibly upset about the situation and mentions that she will spend the day outside, only returning to the room to sleep. She also plans to leave dinner early to give Josh the chance to inform Marcus about their separation. At dinner, Josh and Marcus reminisce and laugh about old memories. Marcus mentions that Colombia's highest waterfall is nearby and suggests they visit it through one of the city's forests. The next day, they decide to go, and although Sophia is reluctant to go out with Josh, she decides to join them, thinking it might be a good opportunity to revisit her memories of the city. Later, Sophia excuses herself, claiming she wants to sleep, and Marcus notices her change in behavior. He asks Josh about it, and Josh reveals their decision to separate. Marcus is shocked, as he considered them one of the most successful couples. He asks Josh for the reason, and Josh explains that their personalities have changed, and they are no longer compatible. The next morning, Sophia wakes up early and starts working. Later, she gets ready to go to the waterfall and is surprised to find that Josh hasn't dressed yet. Josh explains that Marcus canceled due to being busy with other commitments, and he tells Sophia to go alone since she wants to make the most of her time in the city. Concerned for her safety, Josh decides to accompany her despite her protests. Josh asks the hotel staff for the best route to the waterfall, and they point him to a path, but it turns out to be very long. Josh notices a shorter route but is warned by the staff that it is dangerous due to venomous snakes. Sophia is surprised to hear about the snakes, as she was unaware of their presence in the city. The staff explains that the snakes are a recent issue caused by climate changes. Josh insists on taking the shorter route, claiming he is familiar with wilderness survival, but Sophia objects. The staff also advises them to stick to the safe route. As they leave, the staff signals to a man sitting nearby, who turns out to be the thief that used to rob tourists and hunt snakes for their skins. It becomes clear that the staff collaborates with him, tipping him off whenever tourists head to the forest, so he can rob them. The couple drives to the forest leading to the waterfall, parks their car, and begins their hike. As they ascend to a high altitude, Josh becomes tired and frequently stops to rest, while Sophia continues ahead. Josh eventually catches up to her sitting on a rock and thanks her for waiting. However, Sophia embarrasses him by saying she only stopped due to muscle cramps, not for him. While they talk, Josh notices the unstable weather and predicts an approaching storm. He decides they should head back, but when they return to their car, they find the thief trying to break into it. Sophia is frightened and suggests they let him take the car to avoid harm, but Josh refuses, fearing they will have no way to return. Josh tells Sophia to hide, gives her the bag he's carrying, and confronts the thief. The thief, armed with a gun, demands money from Josh. Josh insists he has no money, but the thief, suspecting Sophia has it, asks where she is and threatens Josh with the gun. Sophia, witnessing the scene, becomes worried about Josh and decides to confront the thief, handing him the bag. While the thief searches the bag for money, Josh seizes the opportunity to hit him on the head with a tree branch. The couple then runs into the forest, but the thief, still alive, begins chasing them and fires shots at them. As it starts raining, the couple comes across a sign warning them about the dangerous part of the forest, the same area the staff had warned them about. Despite the risk, they decide to enter, hoping the thief will be too scared to follow them. Sophia fights with her husband, blaming him for their situation, pointing out that it was his insistence on confronting the thief that led to this. Afterward, Sophia runs toward the dangerous part of the forest, while Joshua tries to delay the thief as much as he can before chasing after her. Sophia continues her way into the forest until she stumbles, loses consciousness, and later wakes up to find herself alone. She begins searching for Joshua but falls into a mud pit that resembles quicksand. The pit starts pulling her in, and she struggles to resist until Joshua arrives and calms her down, handing her a tree branch to hold onto so he can pull her out. However, the branch breaks, and the plan fails. Sophia tries again to free herself, but the quicksand pulls her deeper. Without hesitation, Joshua jumps into the pit to save her, managing to lift her head above the surface. Despite his efforts, both end up trapped in the pit with no way out. Despite the danger, Sophia is touched by Joshua's sacrifice and realizes he still loves her. Meanwhile, Marcus heads to their cabin to check on them and arrange another outing. When no one answers, he finds a voice message from Joshua saying they went to the waterfall. As the rain stops, the couple starts brainstorming ways to escape. Joshua points out that the weight of the mud is greater than theirs, so as long as they stay still, they won't sink further. After much discussion, they conclude that their only hope is for someone to come rescue them. They notice a large egg nearby and realize they are in a dangerous place. Suspecting the creature that laid the egg will come looking for it. Suddenly, Sophia feels something beneath her. With Joshua's help, they pull it out and discover it is a human corpse. Being doctors, they deduce from the facial features that the person died of starvation. They realize this was one of the two thieves from the opening scene, and Sophia becomes terrified they might meet the same fate. Joshua, however, starts thinking practically. He takes the bag that was with the young man and finds a flashlight, a knife, and other items inside. They also find a rifle near the body with 2 bullets. Joshua suggests cutting the bag into small pieces to make a long rope. He spots a nearby rock and plans to tie one end of the rope to it and use the other end to pull themselves out. Meanwhile, Marcus is still at the hotel and spots the young thief, noticing Joshua's bag with him and bloodstains on his clothes. Marcus deduces that the thief tried to rob Joshua and Sophia and confronts him, demanding to know their location. The thief refuses to talk until security intervenes, separating them and calling the police. Back in the pit, the couple manages to make a long rope from the bag, but it falls short of the desired length. Joshua suggests cutting his jacket as well, but Sophia worries about the cold. As they think of a solution, they notice a plane overhead, likely one of the tourist planes showcasing the area. They try to signal it, but the tall trees block their visibility. Sophia wants to set the rope on fire using the lighter they found in the bag, but Joshua stops her, saying if they fail, they will have no other way out. This leads to another argument until the plane moves away. A little later, Sophia feels thirsty and asks Joshua if they have anything to drink. He tells her he left everything in the bag. Seeing Sophia begin to lose hope, Joshua tries to stay optimistic, saying that night hasn't fallen yet, so someone might still find them and bring them back to the hotel. Suddenly, Sophia feels something bite her and discovers ants have gathered around her. Unable to reach them, Joshua gives her some alcohol from a bottle they found to pour on the ants. Afterward, Sophia tries to drink from the bottle, but Joshua stops her, saying they need to conserve it. He notices Sophia is losing strength and tries to keep her spirits up. While talking, they remember the rifle they have and realize they could have used it to signal the plane. They both feel frustrated for missing such an obvious solution. Suddenly, Sophia notices a large snake behind Joshua. Although she has the rifle in her hands, she's too scared to shoot, having never used one before. Joshua, unable to turn around, orders Sophia to shoot quickly. As she aims, the snake bites Joshua on his arm. Sophia shoots, injuring the snake, which then escapes. Sophia tries to tie up Joshua's wound to slow the venom's effect. Meanwhile, Marcus is at the police station with the thief in custody. The thief offers to reveal the couple's location in exchange for money, but Marcus realizes he doesn't have any cash on him. He offers his watch instead, and the thief tells him they are in the dangerous part of the forest, warning about quicksand and snakes. Marcus becomes increasingly worried about his friends and pleads with the security guard to let him go rescue them, but no one listens. Back in the pit, Joshua begins to lose hope and shows signs of a blood clot in his neck. Sophia, who had left her medical career after becoming a mother, decides to use her knowledge to save him. She heats the knife with the lighter and prepares to cauterize the wound, despite her fear and lack of recent practice. Determined to save Joshua, she successfully removes the clot and cauterizes the wound. Joshua loses consciousness from the pain, and Sophia faints from exhaustion. Both wake up later, with Joshua thanking Sophia for saving his life. Sophia admits she was excited about the lecture she was supposed to give at the conference, as it would have restored her confidence as a doctor. She reveals she doesn't regret leaving the profession, despite being highly skilled, because she needed to regain her confidence before returning. Joshua reassures her that she made the right decision in prioritizing their children and praises her as both a great mother and an excellent doctor. Sophia remains hopeful they will escape and return to their children. After much thought, she decides to kill the snake and use it to extend their rope to reach the rock. She notices the snake is still nearby. She starts throwing anything nearby at him to provoke and grab his attention. She has the rifle ready to kill him as soon as he approaches her, but the surprise is that the snake comes from behind her. Sophia tries to shoot it with the rifle, but the bullet misses, leaving the rifle empty. The snake manages to wrap its body around her and begins to strangle her. At that moment, Josh is unconscious due to exhaustion, but wakes up at the last second, grabs a knife, and kills the snake. This allows him to save Sophia's life. Sophia ties a rope around the snake's body and, after many attempts, manages to secure the rope to a nearby rock. She grabs the rope and finally climbs out of the pit. However, the rope breaks, and she tries to wake up Josh to grab her hand and climb out. But Josh has lost control of his body, so he tells her to go look for someone to help them. Sophia starts running through the forest, but due to exhaustion, night falls, and she is still in the forest. She keeps losing consciousness and then waking up again. This continues until she reaches the road and finds an ambulance arriving with Marcus. 2 paramedics take her to the ambulance, while Marcus and the other rescuers go searching for Josh. Sophia is overjoyed when she sees them bringing him out alive. And so, the 2 of them manage to escape the forest despite all the dangers they faced. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video.
Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The events begin with 2 flight attendants named Paula and Jenny on their way to the airport for a flight. Paula was excited about this trip because she planned to attend a party after they reached their destination. Jenny joked, "We'll have a blast." They arrived at the airport and began checking the passenger list with Captain Forrest and his assistant, Willie. The number of passengers was very low on this flight because of the bad weather. We notice that Willie looks unwell, with red eyes, and he tells them he was infected by his dog, which has the flu. Paula wishes him a speedy recovery. Later, Jenny steps off the plane to greet a passenger named George, who had a bad attitude. He was upset with his father for making him travel alone. After a while, the passengers start boarding the plane, beginning with Dr. Ken, a paralyzed doctor who cannot speak. His wife, Biff, lovingly takes care of him. At this moment, Ralph arrives. When he sits down, he struggles to fasten his seatbelt. We then see a scientist named Henry boarding with a cage of rats. The flight attendant jokes, "They're not allowed on board." Ralph said to him, "I'll take them." There is an empty space, but one of the rats suddenly bites him, but he brushes it off, showing no concern. Jenny takes the cage and says she'll place it with the luggage below. We notice some chemistry between Henry and Jenny. Eventually, everyone fastens their seatbelts, and the plane takes off. Henry watches the news and learns that intelligence forces raided a terrorist lab conducting experiments on animals and humans to alter their genes. Meanwhile, Paula and Jenny chat, and Jenny notices Ralph looking ill. When she approaches him, He vomits on her face. They bring a first aid kit to help him, but a passenger's cat starts eating Ralph's vomit unnoticed. Jenny goes to the bathroom to clean her clothes, cursing Ralph. When she comes out, Ralph suddenly charges at her like a bull, banging on the plane door hysterically, shouting, "I need to get off the plane. I'm dying." The passengers restrain him, tying him up until he loses consciousness. One of the passengers, Shelley, a military nurse, examines those who were injured during the scuffle. The captain announces that they will land at the nearest airport due to worsening weather, which poses a significant problem. The flight attendants instruct everyone to fasten their seatbelts as the plane shakes violently because of the strong winds. Jenny tells the passengers to lower their heads for safety. Ralph, unconscious, lies near the plane door. Paula and Jenny lift him onto a seat and try to fasten his seatbelt. Suddenly, Ralph wakes up and bites Paula on her nose. Ralph, now making terrifying noises, tries to bite another passenger, but Henry intervenes and locks him in the bathroom. The plane lands, but the gate won't open. The airport staff instructs them to wait, but the captain defies orders, parking the plane directly in front of the exit gate. A man named Ed opens the gate for them. As passengers begin to disembark, Forrest and Willie block the bathroom door to prevent Ralph from escaping and attacking anyone. All passengers leave except Dr. Ken and his wife, Biff. The passengers reach the exit door, only to find that airport officials have locked it. Ed tries to call for help but receives no response. He decides to lead the passengers to a staff exit, but that door is also locked. They are confused about why the officials are trapping them. Ed attempts to activate the electric generator to open the automatic doors, but it's futile. Surveillance cameras monitor them, and Ed informs the group that they're being watched. They hear the sound of police cars and ambulances, feeling relieved, thinking help has arrived. But when they peek through a small opening, they are shocked to see the police aiming weapons at them. A police officer announces that they are under quarantine and must wait for further assistance to ensure their safety. The passengers are devastated and try to contact their families, but there's no network signal. They begin to panic, asking Jenny what to do. She responds, "How would I know? I'm just a flight attendant like you all." Shelley calms them down, mentioning she has medical supplies in her bag, which is still on the plane with the rest of the luggage. It's a risky move, but they decide to retrieve the bag. As Jenny and a few others head back to the plane, the airport officials cut off the electricity. It was a big problem, but Ed takes action, turns on the flashlight, and leads them to the plane. When they arrive, they don't find Willie or First, so they realize they left the airport. Jenny opens the plane's bathroom door, thinking it's empty, but it's full of blood. This means that Ralph has escaped. While they're walking, Dr. Kino appears and scares them. They don't find his wife, Bev, with him, so they understand that she left the airport with First and Willie. After a while, they reach the passenger's luggage, and a man named Neil pulls his gun from his bag. Jenny manages to get Shelley's bag without making any noise to avoid attracting attention. Suddenly, Ed gets startled as a branch moves under his feet. They find the hamster cage open and realize one of them has escaped. As they leave the luggage area, Jenny sees the pilot walking away from the plane door, moving like a rat and making similar noises before running outside the plane. Jenny feels someone is behind her, and she's terrified. When she turns around, she finds the pilot, First, with red eyes trying to bite her. But the rest of the group arrives just in time to save her. Ed fights him, and Neil shoots him with the gun, killing him. After killing the pilot First, they all leave the plane. While returning to the rest of the passengers, they find Dr. Kino fallen from his wheelchair, unable to speak, and only groaning in pain, paralyzed. They take him along to join the rest of the group. Before they leave, they encounter Bev, his wife, who asks for help. The surprise is that she has transformed and tries to attack them. They quickly close the door on her and leave. Jenny gives Shelley her bag, and Shelley tries to treat Paula and stop her bleeding. Meanwhile, the group blocks the door with items to prevent anyone from entering. Jenny notices blood traces on the floor and follows them to find their source but fails to determine where they're coming from. She quickly returns to the group to avoid being surprised by anyone. Shelley tells them that the disease affecting people is a virus, and so far the government hasn't announced it. Jenny mentions that a government building in Los Angeles had been quarantined, and the virus might have originated from there. At that moment, Dr. Kino notices a rat with red eyes above him. He tries to alert the group but can't speak, only groaning. The rat jumps on his head, and despite Kino's attempts to scream, he remains silent. George sees the rat and tries to catch it, but unfortunately, it bites Dr. Kino. They manage to capture the rat and lock it in a bucket. Shelley treats Kino's wound. The group agrees to lock both Kino and Paula in a cage to prevent them from transforming and attacking them. They move them to the cage and secure it with iron bars. Ed examines the rat and notices its leg is tied with a white plastic band, understanding that the rat had been experimented on to become this way. George suggests that Henry is behind this, as he brought them onto the plane. Henry denies it, claiming he didn't bring anything with him. Jenny confronts him, accusing him of lying. Before he can respond, Ralph appears and attacks Jenny, trying to bite her. She screams loudly, and the passengers rush to save her. Luckily, Henry and Ed strangle Ralph with a rope, killing him. Afterward, they hear someone on the radio telling Ed that help has arrived and not to worry. They all rush to the door, where 4 officers enter. The passengers believe the rescue team has arrived. However, the officers announce that no one will leave until certain procedures are completed. They administer an antidote to ensure no one is infected and confiscate Neil's gun. The officers inject Keno and Paula with the antidote. The passengers question the situation, demanding to know what the injection is for and refusing to take it without explanation. The officers insist it's mandatory if they want to leave. Louisa, the cat owner, volunteers to take the injection to leave. As she's about to be injected, her cat scratches her and escapes. The officers shoot the cat to kill it. Suddenly, Dr. Keno, who was paralyzed, gets up and begins attacking the officers, biting them. The remaining officers shoot him and take the bitten officer outside. However, they find the door locked and shoot until they manage to open it. A passenger escapes with them. The problem is that the police outside the door kill everyone except one officer, who gets shot in the leg. The group drags him back inside and locks the door again. They hear the sound of transformed individuals approaching, so they all run into a container. Susan, Neil's wife, refuses to leave her injured husband. Suddenly, Neil bites Susan, causing her to transform. The group locks the door on them. Shelley tells the group she suspects the injections aren't real antidotes since each one is a different color and has a different name. Henry pulls out a gun and questions the officer with them about the injection. The officer reveals he isn't a real officer, but works for the Center for Disease Control. He explains that terrorists created the virus. Suddenly, the officer grabs the gun and kills himself. Ed remembers a drainage tunnel for rainwater and suggests they can escape through it. At that moment, the transformed Willie appears above the container, grabs Ed, and tries to bite him. Henry shoots at him, but he runs out of bullets. Ed tells George to press the button to lift the container. George does so, killing Willie. They take Ed to lead them to the drainage tunnel. Jenny notices Henry is missing. Suddenly, one of them is dragged by a zombie from the ground, but the group doesn't pay attention and continues. Henry returns with bullets for the gun. While running, Paula grabs Jenny by the leg, trying to bite her. Jenny uses a large screwdriver to stab her from a height, killing her. Ed leads them to an office in the area, where they search for maps to locate the drainage tunnel. And indeed, they manage to locate the passage. At that moment, Georgie tells them he stole Henry's bag and shows Jenny the items inside. They discover papers and documents related to scientific experiments, along with a small black box indicating that Henry is hiding something from them. At that moment, Susan and Niall arrive, but before they can eat them, Henry appears and eliminates them. After Henry leaves, Ed notices he's infected and could transform at any moment. Georgie then opens the black box and finds a serum and a set of other injections inside. At that moment, Henry confesses everything, revealing that he is part of a terrorist group aiming to eliminate half of the planet's population, claiming humans are the worst creatures on Earth. He raises his weapon, demanding Georgie hand over the serum. Ed jumps on Henry, trying to kill him, but the madman shoots Ed, killing him. Everyone panics, and Georgie gives Henry the serum to prevent him from going berserk and killing them too. Henry contaminates the serum with his infected blood and injects himself. They ask him how he managed to smuggle all these items onto the plane without raising suspicion, and he reveals that his organization has significant influence. After taking the injection, Henry takes Georgie with him to bypass the police and escape. Jenny tries to save the child, but Henry shoots her and escapes with Georgie. Jenny and Shelley leave the office and head upstairs, with Shelley going first as Jenny feels dizzy and takes her time. But when she reaches the top, Shelley is nowhere to be found, and she encounters a zombie. She manages to trap its head in a machine and kills it. Jenny then ventures into an unknown path, determined to save Georgie. Suddenly, she faces a zombie, and worse, senses someone behind her. Thankfully, Shelley appears with thermal goggles, enabling her to see in the dark. However, Shelley reveals she has been bitten and shows Jenny the wound, asking her to continue searching for Georgie. She reassures Jenny not to worry about the zombies, as she will distract them until Jenny finds Georgie. Shelley points to a hole in the wall, indicating that Henry and Georgie went through it. Shelley then exits the hideout, shouting loudly to draw the zombies' attention, which works. Jenny reaches the wall opening and begins to crawl through, but before she can fully enter, Louisa's cat appears, about to bite her. Jenny hits it with a large wrench and continues through the opening. Jenny emerges on the other side and notices blood on the ground. She follows the trail, becoming more horrified when she sees a group of rats. Upon closer inspection, she realizes they are ordinary rats and continues following the blood trail until it ends. She finds a clue indicating she's on the right path and spots a staircase leading down to the passages. As she descends, she finds Georgie, who informs her that Henry's serum failed, and he has transformed into a zombie. Georgie urges her not to go further, but she insists on rescuing him. Blood starts dripping onto her goggles, and suddenly Henry appears, knocking off her goggles and attacking her. Jenny tries to fight back, defending herself. Georgie retrieves the goggles, finds Henry's gun, and uses it to push Henry away from Jenny, who then strikes Henry on the head with the wrench, killing him. They are shocked as the entire place begins to burn, revealing that the government is incinerating the area. Jenny finds an exit and equips Georgie with the goggles, telling him to go ahead while she follows. They hear explosions and quicken their pace. Jenny shows signs of exhaustion, looking unwell. The heartbreaking twist is that she has been bitten and is about to transform. Georgie notices, but she tells him to keep going and leave her behind. He refuses, saying he won't abandon her. Jenny insists on continuing until they reach the exit gate, only to find it locked with metal bars. Georgie's small body allows him to slip through to the street, but he returns, calling for Jenny to save her. However, Jenny has transformed into a zombie and tries to bite him. Georgie cleverly turns his back, causing her to bite his jacket instead. She cannot pass through the bars due to her size. Georgie removes his jacket, sits on the ground, and watches her, horrified by her transformation into a terrifying red-eyed zombie. Finally, Georgie escapes the airport, becoming the sole survivor of the incident. The shocking twist is that Louisa's cat also escapes the airport and heads into the city streets. Imagine what it might do to the people there. The film ends on this scene. Most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos.
Welcome to Plot Twist, your place for quick summaries of movies with jaw-dropping twists. Let's dive in. The movie begins with a group of children gathered in an abandoned building, betting money. One of them writes a number on a board, collects bets from the others, starts a stopwatch, and sets it. If it stops on the number he wrote, his opponent wins. As soon as he starts the stopwatch, we discover that one of the children has supernatural powers. He can control things with his mind and thoughts. He uses his power to stop the watch at the number written on the board. When he uses this hidden energy, his eye color changes, and an invisible energy wave appears around his head, directing it at the object he wants to control to achieve what he desires and win the bet. The first boy doesn't like this because he would lose all his money. He writes a second and third number, but each time, the supernatural boy uses his power to stop the watch at the number written. The first boy starts suspecting him of cheating and refuses to give him the money he supposedly won. But the supernatural boy gets angry, controls one of the people present, and forces him to hold a knife to his opponent's neck until he surrenders and gives him all the money. At that moment, 3 gang members arrive, chase the kids, and take all the money they were betting with. One of the gang members threatens the supernatural boy with a gun, but suddenly his eye color changes and he controls the gun. The gun in the man's hand deform, causing him severe pain, even though the boy didn't touch him. However, one of the gang members hits the boy on the head, knocking him unconscious. Later, in a mountain village, 3 masked individuals arrive and meet a group of shepherds and hunters by the river. They ask for their help to reach the village because there's a checkpoint at the mountain that they can't easily pass. The shepherds and hunters agree to guide them to the village. When they reach the checkpoint, the soldiers find weapons hidden among the wood they were carrying. The soldiers attack them, refusing to let them pass, claiming they pose a threat. However, the veiled woman and her 2 companions kill the soldiers and some villagers, then continue their way to the village, taking the weapons with them. Upon reaching the village, they find people celebrating and dancing. They approach them and demand the sacred relic. When the village elder refuses to give them anything, they kill him and a few others. Before killing the rest, one of the villagers pleads with them not to kill her son, whom they forcibly took from her. To spare him, she tells them the location of the relic they seek. After reaching the area where the relic is kept, the woman enters to retrieve it, only to be confronted by a martial arts expert guarding it. A fierce battle ensues, which the evil woman wins. She steals the ancient artifact and escapes with her companions. Later, in a cave in the village, we see an old man reciting spells. A strange liquid material appears on the cave wall, moving as if it has consciousness. The old man cuts a piece of it, holds it in his hand, and it transforms into fire. In the next scene, in the city, there's a fire in a building. Firefighters are trying to extinguish it and rescue people trapped inside. Among the firefighters is a young man named Chan. Upon hearing a child crying inside the fire, he abandons his team and enters the building alone to save the child. His teammates exit the building and inform their captain of his actions. The captain gets angry because the gas pipes in the building are about to explode, putting everyone at risk. Suddenly, Chan appears at the window, slides down a cable with the child, and lands safely on the ground. It turns out this was all part of a training exercise for the firefighters to prepare them for real-life operations. Chan is punished for separating from his team and endangering himself and others. Later, a new firefighter named Grace joins the unit. While getting to know her, they receive a fire alarm and rush to the scene, which is in the city prison. There we discover that the prison warden is conspiring with one of the inmates to help him escape in exchange for $100,000. As the inmate is about to escape and hand over the money, the firefighters arrive and witness the situation. Thinking the gang is threatening the warden, Chan intervenes to protect him, only to discover that the warden stabs him in the chest with a strange chain. When the gang leader demands the money from the warden, he shoots him dead. Chan, who had been stabbed with the chain, finds that it has fused with his body as if it were an alien object. After the gang leaves, Chan's body starts showing signs of burns, with fire running through his veins. After a while, he regains consciousness and feels intense heat in his body, as if he's burning from the inside. Surprisingly, the wound on his chest heals completely, as if nothing happened. When he fully regains his senses, he finds himself in a cave with the old man who was reciting spells earlier. Chan runs to him, asking for help and why he feels like his body is on fire. The old man explains that the fire in his body is caused by the intensity of his thoughts or the fire in his mind. When his mind calms down, his body will return to normal because the body reflects the state of the mind. The old man also tells him that fire can destroy everything, but it also has the ability to reveal the true nature of metals and strengthen them. He advises Chan to learn how to control it. Suddenly, the old man disappears, leaving Chan wondering if it was all just a dream. This time, he wakes up and sees the girl who was at the beginning carrying the treasure of secrets in the village cave, trying to help him. But he is scared of her and tries to escape, but unfortunately, he can't, because he feels as if fire is running through his body to the extent that the rain falling on him turns into steam and smoke. He was in severe pain, and she knew what was happening to him. She tells him that this is because his body's merging with the new power, and after a while, he will be fine. During this time, the gang leader or terrorist who escaped from prison with a group of his followers kidnaps people, wanting to vent his anger on the government and the Americans who have been exploiting them for years. He begins carrying out suicide operations to kill Americans in the country. The first target is a girl who goes to sit in a cafe. When an American tourist approaches her to get to know her and finds out he is American, she presses a detonation button, blowing herself and everyone around her up. At that time, Sham was drinking, and when he went to place the glass on the table, it fell and broke. When he tried to pick up the shards, he cut himself but was shocked to find his blood had become very strange. A drop of blood that fell from him turned into metal. He tested this by cutting his cat, and to his surprise, his blood indeed turned into metal, and the wound healed instantly. At that moment, Barima appears and tells him that what is happening to his body is due to the extraterrestrial substance that merged with him, giving him superpowers. She explains that whenever his heart beats quickly due to fear or excitement, his blood turns into something like liquid metal from the intense heat, making him a superhero. She tells him she will help him control his powers and use them to protect people. Afterwards, Sham goes to the library and takes all the books about solar meteors that arrived on Earth thousands of years ago due to solar explosions. He learns that the legend of these solar stones exists in many civilizations, but each saw it differently. However, it is known that they have magical powers that give immense and mysterious energy to the person they merge with. In Thai civilization, people believe that whoever possesses this energy becomes extraordinary and can help and love humanity. Later, the evil girl goes to his house, shocks him with electricity, and attacks him along with the terrorists with her, including Grace and her mother. But Sham and Grace kill them until one of them shoots Sham. Although Sham doesn't die, he falls to the ground from the shock of the bullet. At that moment, Barima arrives, kills them with him, and takes him to Nadim's hideout. She tells him he must learn to control his power and use it since the stone has fully merged with him, giving him incredible strength. However, the problem now is that whenever he uses his firepower, it burns his clothes. So he decides to go and steal fire-resistant fabric from the fire department he works at. He sends the fabric to Grace with a message asking her to make him a superhero suit from it, similar to the one he saw designed before. Meanwhile, a terrorist recalls his memories and the reason for his intense hatred of Americans. He remembers traveling with his family near the border when American soldiers stopped their car for inspection. The driver tried to escape, so the soldiers fired at the car, killing his wife and daughter instantly. Returning to Sham, Rima's son is training him to control the powers within him. She explains that the solar stone makes him incredibly fast, faster than the cold, and that to reach his maximum potential, he must train and clear his mind as much as possible. If he reaches this stage, he will be stronger than the strongest metal on Earth and will be able to control objects remotely, having a unique gravitational pull. At that time, Grace was still designing his superhero suit, and Osama went to meet a scientist specializing in extraterrestrial stones found on Earth. He shows them the lunar stone, which opposes the solar stone and absorbs its power. Osama demonstrates the immense power of the lunar stone. When broken, it returns to its original form, and he wants to experiment to see what happens if the solar stone merges with the lunar stone. Since the solar stone contains uranium particles and the lunar stone contains others, the result would likely resemble a nuclear bomb. They place a piece of the lunar stone in a bullet to shoot Sham and observe what happens to him. At that time, Sham was on the phone with his mother, reassuring her. When the gang cuts the line, kidnaps her and Grace. When Sham rushes to save her, he can't find her, becoming very angry and scared for his mother. He nearly harms Borima when she tries to calm him down. The next day, the terrorist and the scientist assisting him test the lunar stone bullet in the desert. The result is shocking, as the bullet's power is so immense that it destroys a mountain due to the massive energy wave from the explosion. They barely survive by hiding. The terrorist is thrilled with the result and decides to target an American warship. Meanwhile, the young boy seen in the film's opening scene, who has extraordinary powers to make people do whatever he wants, is being monitored for his mental activity. When he hears news on TV about the bombings and what's happening in the country, he wakes up and controls the man restraining him, forcing him to take him to the city. There he controls a group of elephants on the street, making them attack people. At that moment, Sham appears, protecting people from the rampaging elephants and trapping them between buses. At that moment, the terrorists' men arrive, sedate the boy, and kidnap him. They take him back to their hideout and show him a picture of the warship they plan to target, intending to use his powers to sink it easily without being detected by radar. Over the next few days, Sham continues to thwart thefts and accidents happening in the city until the terrorist gang attacks him. A fierce battle ensues, during which they shoot at him, discovering he is unaffected. Initially, they had come to rescue Grace and his mother. They discover that the lunar stone is with the terrorist when Borima finds a piece of it on the ground using her magical compass, which detects both the solar and lunar stones and pinpoints their location. The terrorist sets a trap for Sham to lure him in and seize his power by attacking a group of people at a party. As soon as Sham appears to save them, one of the terrorists, a man working with the terrorist, activates an ionic device that affects Chan and weakens his strength. However, Chan uses his power and combat skills to fight and defeat them. Later, he decides to go with them willingly to infiltrate the terrorist group and rescue his mother. During this time, Borima and others visit Chan's friend and ask for his help. The three of them head to the location where the terrorist is hiding. The terrorist deceives Chan, making him believe he will release his mother, but instead he shocks him and knocks him unconscious so that the mad scientist working with him can examine and experiment on him. As the scientist approaches Chan with a scalpel, Chan dreams of the wise old man who tells him to control his power. Chan suddenly awakens, strikes the scientist, frees his mother, and defeats the terrorist men. The terrorist had sent his assistant to the building's roof to activate a missile aimed at an American ship. A young boy uses his power to disrupt the ship's systems so the radar won't detect the missile, but Borima intervenes before the missile is launched. She sacrifices herself to prevent the catastrophe that could destroy the world. Meanwhile, Chan, Grace, and their friend are battling the terrorist and his men, one of whom uses an ionic sword with strange energy that affects and weakens Chan. Chan fights back and eventually defeats him, saving the young boy, and they all escape. At the same time, Borima engages in an epic battle with the terrorist's assistant. They fight with all their strength, but Borima overpowers her. However, the assistant activates the missile, which cannot be deactivated once launched. The radar at the port detects the incoming missile, and the Navy takes all necessary precautions, managing to strike the missile with artillery while it's still in the air before it reaches them. When Chan goes to rescue his mother, he finds the terrorist wearing a suicide belt and threatening to kill her. The terrorist lectures him about the supposed evil of Americans and their responsibility for wars worldwide, citing events in Afghanistan and elsewhere. He reveals that he has planted bombs throughout the city and threatens to detonate them, destroying the entire city. The young boy uses his power to stop the terrorist from carrying out his threat. When this happens, the terrorist drinks poison and commits suicide. At the same time, the terrorist's assistant reappears, having transformed after being exposed to parts of the American stone. She engages in a fierce battle with Chan, controlling water and attacking him from all directions. She traps him in a pool of water and begins freezing it, succeeding in immobilizing him. Just as she believes she has won, Chan breaks free from the ice, defeats her, and retrieves the sacred stone. He saves everyone and returns to the city. Burima takes the sacred stone back to her village to safeguard it once again. Chan continues as a superhero, but disappears for a while, and the young boy returns to his normal life, refraining from using his powers for evil. And with that, our movie ends for today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to stay updated with all